Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the July 13th, 2021 City Council Successor Agency and City Council meeting at 4:30. Pursuant to Section 54956 of the California Government Code, a special meeting of the City Council is hereby called for July 13th, 2021 at 4:30 p.m. And we do have a quorum today. And so, Margaret, if I could get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Here.
Councilmember Meyer?
Here.
Councilmember Rary?
Here.
Mayor Bryant?
Here.
And let the record reflect that Vice Mayor Rodriguez is absent.
Okay. At this time, we will open public comments, and I'll turn it to you, Margaret.
At this time, the public is permitted to address the City Council on items that are on the closed session agenda. I did receive one written public comment submitted prior to the meeting, and the email is shown on the screen on the presentation slide. The City Council has been provided full copies of the written public comments, and these will be made available on the City Council Agenda's webpage. If you wish to speak under public comment, please raise your hand using the Zoom feature, and I'll call upon your name if provided and unmute you to speak. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person. Your microphone will be muted after the timer has expired. While we encourage your comments, state law prevents the City Council from discussing items that are not on their meeting agenda. If appropriate, staff will follow up on them. I do have one hand raised. Carolina Villaseca will go first. Carolina, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Like the Spinal Tap movie, hello from Cleveland. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, visiting family. I wanted to call and speak in support of the city of Brentwood, of Jovita Mendoza, and of Susanna Meyer in the lawsuit brought forth, to no one's surprise, by the builder of Bridalgate. The reason for my call is not just to stand in support of them and the city, but also to make sure that when the date of the trial comes, it would be extremely helpful to send a really strong message by having all of the members of City Council present in court, along with the city manager, Tim Ogden, and of course, Damien, our city attorney. That would send an incredibly strong message that Brentwood is committed not only to the general plan, but also to the zoning requirements that are set forth in the general plan for future projects. So I think it's really important that all of the city council members be present in solidarity of the two members getting sued, and also to show that they understand and are in support of the members of, the residents of Brentwood, who have made their voices clear as to what is needed in terms of projects and sticking to the general plan. So thank you very much.
I see no additional hands raised.
Okay, so at this time, we will close public comments, and I need a motion to adjourn to closed session.
So moved. Second that.
We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Rary?
Aye.
Mayor Bryant?
Aye.
Motion carries with Vice Mayor Rodriguez absent.
Okay, so at this time, we are adjourned to closed session.
Yeah.
And what is the process now? Do we just...
I'm assigning host privileges, and I'm logging off. I'll be off in just a second.
And before you log off, make sure I have the capability to lock the meeting, Margaret. I don't see the option yet.
It may be as soon as I make you the... Do you see it there now?
Not yet. Nope, I don't see it. Where is it located again?
If you go to participants,
Yes. It just shows invite.
he wants to be able to walk the meeting. If you push the space bar, he can hear you.
We also have attendees still in the closed session, so until we have them excuse themselves, we're not going to be able to start the meeting. And I don't see a lock function yet. Do you have the ability to lock it, Margaret?
I'm sorry, excuse me. We're looking over here. I don't have host abilities anymore, so I can't.
Can you pass the host back to us for now?
If you could pass the host back for just a minute, we'll try to figure it out on this end.
Okay.
What if you go down to that more? Nope. Did they change something?
Otherwise, good afternoon, everyone. Apologize for this.
That might be a staff person. I suppose Cindy.
This is just that.
Yeah, okay.
Are we going to keep that?
No, Cindy needs to go.
Where's the lock?
Where did it go?
Well, right now we don't have anybody who's not supposed to be participating in the meeting. We could start, but we don't have the ability to lock anybody from joining late. So we could either keep an eye on it or keep waiting on IS to help us find that lock feature.
What would council prefer to do?
I'm not comfortable without the meeting being locked, because if somebody comes in as an attendee, they can come into our meeting at any point.
Yeah, I agree. But Tim, it says to tap more in the meetings control, tap security,
Hey, Tim,
and then
we
following
got it.
settings can be enabled. You got it?
Yeah, Tim, all you have to do is go to the participants list, and you should see the three buttons, three dots on the right-hand side. I'm going to give you the host key first.
Yes. Once I have that back, I can find that option.
Okay, you should have the host key.
Yes, I have it.
So
And the
go
three
to
buttons show.
participants.
Okay.
And then there should be three dots on the right-hand side, lower.
There it is. I see it now. Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
No problem. We'll get out.
The webinar is now locked.
Locked.
Okay. We can proceed.
All right. Well, let's do that.
Goodbye.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 13th, 2021 City of Brentwood City Council Successor Agency meeting, regularly scheduled meeting. And it looks like we do have a quorum. Margaret, could I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Mendoza?
Here.
Councilmember Meyer?
Here.
Councilmember Rary?
Here.
Mayor Bryant?
Here.
And let the record reflect that Vice Mayor Rodriguez is absent.
Thank you. We could all join together in the Pledge of Allegiance at the opening of this meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we will open public comments, and I'll turn it to you, Margaret.
At this time, the public is permitted to address the City Council on items that are not on the agenda, items that are listed under informational reports or on the consent calendar. Request for future agenda items, new request. Please save your comments for any other items that are on the agenda for that part of the meeting when you have the opportunity to provide them. I received one written public comment, or two written public comments that were submitted to the City Clerk prior to the meeting. A copy is shown on the presentation slide. The City Council has been provided full copies of the written public comments, and these will be made available on the City Council agenda webpage. If you wish to speak under public comment, please raise your hand using the Zoom feature, and I'll call upon your name if provided and unmute you to speak. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person, and your microphone will be muted after the timer has expired. While we encourage your comments, state law prevents the City Council from discussing items that are not on their meeting agenda, and if appropriate, staff will follow up on them. And I'm not current. There we go. I do have one hand raised. Stephen Visbeck. Mr. Visbeck, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, hi. So I had I have an issue with basically going on right now with the City of Brentwood Police Department, and I've been trying to reach I've escalated it all the way through all levels, and I've been trying to reach the chief, and he has not returned any of my emails or requests or anything like that. Basically what's going on is for the last 3 years or so, I've been harassed by a police officer in which I went to school with, high school, and there's been multiple internal affairs investigations, and I've submitted tons of proof, and the internal affairs system at the Brentwood Police Station, I feel, is completely broken because they just come back non-founded, and like it's very troubling, and it's I'm not sure where to go from here, and so I really need to speak directly with the chief, and so I was basically, this is the only way I can, come to the city and say that, hey, I need to speak to him, but I would really appreciate it if he could set up a one-on-one with me, because there are some very serious issues. There's been false reports written, false arrests, or not false arrests. I've been arrested and then acquitted in court. It's a very serious thing, and I've been a resident of Brentwood for 37 years, and I've never had a problem with any police officer or anything like that before. And so I've also submitted claims to the city attorney and to be reimbursed for some damages that's happened because of this, and I never received a response back. Are you still there?
Yes, we are, Mr. Bisbeck.
That's pretty much it. I'm not sure where to go from here.
Okay, so, Mr. Bisbeck, right now, council cannot interact in a conversation with you because this conversation is not on our actual agenda. But what I can do, normally what would happen is I would turn, if we weren't in a Zoom situation, I would turn to city staff and ask them to meet with you to set up an appointment. So what I'm going to do right now, if you're finished speaking in your public speaking time, I will ask staff if they could reach out if they have contact information for Mr. Visbeck to get in touch with him.
Okay. Yeah, that works. Yeah, I've been to city council meeting before when I was in college. I attended one, and I've actually copied yourself on some of the emails that I've sent in the past 6 months or so, but I haven't heard a response. So I would appreciate it if you could set something up, please.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Visbeck.
Thank
you. Staff, I don't know if this goes to Tim or Damien. If you have contact information, if you could get in touch with Mr. Visbeck.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Back to you, Margaret.
The next speaker I have with their hand raised is Cindy. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
No. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Cynthia Natodor. I reside in Brentwood, and I have 3 items I would like to speak on. First, I would like to ask City of Brentwood government, including City Council, to adopt a resolution to include City of Brentwood on the opposition list for SB 9. Our city will join that way a list of over 175 other cities in California to say no to single-family home being transformed into a 6-unit density without any public hearings allowed. Vulnerable Black and Latino homeowner areas are unprotected if SB 9 passes. No units of affordable housing are required, and that is a disgrace. No yard is required with narrow setbacks for neighbors set at just 4 feet. No garages are required, just 1 parking space per unit. Developers and investors are free to destroy all trees on lots, even with heat island areas. 6-unit projects are allowed on single-family lots in fire hazard severity zones, all by right, meaning with no public hearings again. SB 9 is a destabilization attack on 7 million California single-family households. It's a bulldozer bill, so please consider joining the opposition list. Second, I would like to express my opposition to the potential annexation proposed under the Walnut project. One of the reasons is that the way the project is proposed today is against the law. It will create an unincorporated island, which is in conflict with Cortez-Knox-Hertzberg Local Government Reorganization Act of 2000. Either annex the entire area or nothing at all. Our infrastructure cannot accommodate additional housing. Our roads are clogged with traffic. Our schools are overcrowded. Fire and emergency service are still severely insufficient. Police department cannot keep up with current issues and have them under control, and adding more homes will have severe negative impact on current residents' quality of life. Third, I noticed on the agenda for a special meeting held earlier today that city is currently in litigation with Discovery Builders and West Coast Home Builders, both CINO affiliate. I urge city government to not consider in front of their intimidating tactics and bullying tendencies they exhibited during the Bridal Gate project review. Please hold the line and tell this abusive developer that Brentwood has a general plan and zoning that needs to be enforced. The good days of All Boys Club are over, and Brentwood will only accept quality projects that will benefit the community, not the developers. The community stands with the city of Brentwood government in saying no to these abusive practices. Thank you.
I see no additional speakers with their hands raised. There's no one else with their hand raised. Sorry.
Thank you. At this time, then, we will close public comments. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, after public comments have been closed, neither the city clerk or I heard you indicate that there was nothing to report out on closed session during the open portion of the meeting. I know we did it right after the closed session, but just for the public's benefit, just to let them know there was nothing to report out from the closed session.
Thank you. for the public. There was nothing to report out during our closed session.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So at this time then, we will move into informational reports from council members, and we'll begin with...
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, could we move the informational reports to after the Senator Glazer's update so that they can be on their way?
Yes, we can. Thank you for that. I read right over that. At this time, we will move into item A, presentation from Mr. George Escutia, Jr., District Director, Office of California State Senator Stephen Glazer. And I do want to thank you, George, for being here. And I will tell you that Council Member Meyer, in her duties as a representative for the senator, did an outstanding job at the mayor's conference, and I appreciate you coming and bringing this information to us.
Well, thank you and good evening. I just want to confirm that I am, that there's video of me. I'm just trying to make sure. Okay, yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you, Mayor Bryant and members of the City Council for allowing me to present this legislative update on behalf of Senator Glazer. I also want to give special thanks to City Manager Ogden for helping to facilitate this. So I'm going to start off with the budget. The budget was signed yesterday by Governor Newsom. The legislature has approved state budget plans just before the new fiscal year about how to spend $262.6 billion. It's a large number. The budget includes a record high reserves of $25.2 billion and record high education funding of $93.7 billion. Major funding priorities include homelessness programs and a universal kindergarten plan. Some of the highlights of this year's budget include the Golden State Stimulus 2 package. The Golden State Stimulus 2 package will expand to include adults who earn $30,000 to $75,000 who will receive $600 if they don't have any children, and an additional $1,100 for each child if they do. We also extended the state's eviction moratorium, directing $5 billion towards back payments of rent, $1.5 billion in grants for small businesses who were hurt by the pandemic, $1 billion over several years for wildlife prevention, a very timely topic right now. The budget also adds animal evacuation bill, very important to our friends in the rural areas, SB 547, into the higher education trailer bill. This would create a program to train volunteers and build a network of government and non-governmental agencies to evacuate and shelter pets and livestock during emergencies. And the budget increases money for mental health services, and it also creates the California Dream Fund to provide small grants up to $10,000 to new businesses through the California Small Business Technical Assistance Expansion Program. Over the next few weeks, all of the senators' bills are being heard in the Assembly Policy Hearings Committees as they make their way to the Assembly floor. A few highlights include improvements of our mental health programs, mental health oversight, which will track the spending and outcomes of our state and county mental health programs, California Conservation Corps Forestry Management Program, which will create a program for former California Conservation Corps inmates to clear brush and assist in forest management to meet the state's wildfire mitigation goals and reduce recidivism. This bill is part of the Senate wildfire package. We also have the senator has a bill in on infectious disease data. Very important as some of our policymakers are making decisions is for us to know what's happening with infectious disease in our communities. We have our short-term rental bill that's in the Assembly now. This came out of the tragic Halloween night shootings in Orinda. Also, sales tax reform, which has been a big issue for the senator, ensuring that our communities get the vital sales tax revenue that they've been missing out as it's gone towards e-business. The senators co-authored bills related to telecom resiliency, requiring each provider of telecom service to maintain on its internet web a public outage map showing that provider's outages. And he's also co-authored a bill on Valley Link, which extends BART to Livermore and authorizes design build contracts and removes the requirement that the connection point with ACE be in the Tri-Valley. So special remarks I want to make. By now, I'm sure that you have all heard the great news that in this year's budget, $1.4 million for construction and restoration of the John Marsh House was secured. With this funding, the hope is that there will be renewed community interest in Marsh Creek State Park. Senator Glazer looks forward to working with the community to open the park and the John Marsh House to the public so that the rich history of our community can be learned and so that future generations can experience this wonderful and beautiful space. So the Senator would like me to convey his thanks to all of you for your efforts during these trying times. It was really beautiful to see the resilience that came out of our communities during the pandemic and how everyone came together to help one another. Senator looks forward to being able to visit with all of you soon, council members. Personally, I want to acknowledge my colleague, Susana Meyer. She's a member of Senator Glazer's office and is a great resource to the city of Brentwood and the greater East County community. So please continue to be engaged and in contact with our office and utilize us when needed. And I'm open to answer any questions I may have, that you may have, or take any feedback back to Senator Glazer at this time.
Councilmember Mendoza. You're still on mute.
Sorry. Thank you so much for coming out tonight, George. I really appreciate you giving us the update. And thank you so much for, tell him, Senator Glazer, thank you for advocating for the Marsh Creek House. I think $1.4 million is phenomenal, and we really appreciate all of his hard work. I grew up where we had the Densmere House and Garden, so I really envision it coming something along those lines where, you know, everyone can come and we can hold events and it'll bring our community together. So thank you so much for that and so much more.
Sure.
Councilmember Rary.
Well, George, I want to say you kind of stole my thunder tonight on that, but as a member of the John Marsh Historic Trust, we are just thrilled with the $1.4 million to help get the house rolling again, and we are going to be looking to get matching funds, whether that comes from the city or some other places. That would be great. But, you know, extend our sincere thanks to the Senator and for all the work that you've put in on it as well as your East County representative, our council member, Susanna Meyer. It is exciting news, and we are so thrilled. Thank you.
I just want to reiterate that this is the first step. The Senator is very committed to opening that long closed land to the public and ensuring access. So we hope that we can partner up with the city of Brentwood, the local community, to ensure that the park is open finally, which is long overdue.
Yes, it became a state park in 2007. It's a little over 3,600 acres, and it is, I think there's like 70 miles, and there will be a trail that will be going through the park from the Marsh Creek Trail all the way out to Round Valley, so that we will be able to go from Big Break through Brentwood, through the Marsh Creek State Park, Round Valley, Morgan Territory, and all the way up to Mount Diablo. So that will be very exciting. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank you, George, also, and thank the Senator. He has been a stalwart in protecting local government and city rights for our communities, and he's done an outstanding job. And again, thank you for the report you brought. As always, you do a great job, and we are very excited to have your co-representative on our council. She's always outstanding. So thank you so much, George, for your time, and thank the Senator for us.
Will do. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Be safe. So at this time, then we will move into informational reports, and I will begin with Councilmember Mendoza.
Hello. Since the last time we met, I have been on meetings regarding SB 9, always, with Assemblyman Isaac Bryan and Assemblyman Kevin Kelly to ask them for a no vote when it gets to the Assembly. I attended Field Day at Trilogy, where they had, it was a 24-hour period where everyone had their ham radios and they're communicating with people all over. So if everything were to go down, we have people in Brentwood that can get out and communicate and get the word out, which is pretty exciting. I attended the Rotary Club meeting on the 29th. I met with La Clínica de la Raza and have coordinated with them. They will be having pop-up vaccination clinics at the farmers market. They will also be having a pop-up vaccination clinic and a little festival kind of thing in September on Brentwood Boulevard near that Dollar General area, so that'll be fun. And today I attended the Board of Supervisors meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Meyer.
I would like to apologize. I have a voice, but it's not great. I'm going to submit my informational report via email to Margaret for public record, but didn't want to go through all of it. There was a lot. It was great. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Rary.
Yes, since the last time we met, other than the John Marsh Historic Trust information, I attended a U.S. Treasury coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds update. I also attended the Trilogy Amateur Radio Club Field Day, and a couple of the members of that are actually part of the Brentwood VIPs, and they talked about being able to connect their organization with the VIPs and with the Community Emergency Response Team, and be able to do activities with all of them together so that if there is an emergency that happens or a natural disaster in our area, that they can coordinate together through those different organizations. So maybe the city can look into that. I attended the Rotary Revival, and the president, Shauna Pippin, that was her last meeting, and she has just done a bang-up job. Brentwood Strong was out there and did so much during coronavirus in order to bring supplies to residents in our area, much-needed supplies. I attended the East Bay Regional Park District's Rowdy Ranch virtual planning, and that had it was interesting. They did a poll during the meeting, and one of the top things that people wanted was habitat restoration and conservation of it, as well as trails and the other things that you normally want to see in a park, but on top was habitat restoration. So I attended the mayor's conference and Rethinking Homeless, Solving the Chronic Homelessness and Affordable Housing Crisis. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Since the last time we met, I met with Supervisor Burgess regarding state and county circumstances that are going to affect us, SB 9, the homeless, and our COVID response as well, and working to encourage those that have not been vaccinated to do so as soon as they feel comfortable doing so. Also, I attended the mayor's conference, the 4th of July parade, where staff did an outstanding job in following the direction that council gave them, and did not hear one unhappy voice the whole day. There were lots of great groups of families out enjoying the morning, and I will say the businesses that were open downtown were a real asset to the enjoyment there. Also, I attended the East Contra Costa Habitat Conservancy board meetings, two of those meetings this month, as well as Transplan meeting, BART, State Route 4, and ECRIFA meetings, and Tri-Delta Transit Board meeting as well. And that's all I have to report at this time. So now we will move into item C, consent calendar. And do I have a motion for the consent calendar?
I would like to pull an item, Mayor, item C3.
Item C3. Does anyone else have items they'd like to pull? And if not, do we have a motion minus item C3?
I make a motion to adopt the consent calendar except for item C3.
Okay, we have a first.
Second.
Second. Roll call vote, please, Margaret.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Rary?
Aye.
Mayor Bryant?
Aye.
Motion carries with Vice Mayor Rodriguez absent.
Okay. Councilmember Mendoza?
Yeah, when I read through this, a lot of it sounded familiar, things that we had voted on, like the pickleball court, the bathrooms, things along that line. And I got to the end, and it says 4, expand and enhance recreation opportunities by increasing programming for seniors, youth, and teens, implementing adaptive recreation. I remember we had long conversations about the adaptive recreation. I actually asked Bruce, we never had a conversation that's documented about expanding and enhancing recreation opportunities for seniors and youth and teens. And I think it's important, but I think that we need to have more discussion around that. What does that look like? Because these are really big umbrellas. And all of these things, I believe, should have financial impact. So what is the financial impact of number 4, as it's stated?
Yeah, sure, I can help address that item. So that goal was part of the strategic initiatives basically that came out of the October 2019 strategic planning session with the City Council. So that particular goal, expand and enhance recreation opportunities by increasing programming for seniors, youth, and teens, and implementing adaptive recreation, has been in the strategic plan. The 2 areas of that initiative or focus areas that are actually initiatives that are moving as part of that kind of overarching, that statement is more of a goal, and the 2 initiatives coming out of that, one is the adaptive recreation, which is moving forward. City Council has brought that one forward for us to move forward. That includes $20,000 for a consultant for adaptive recreation, and that is actually in process right now. The other piece of that was to review our recreation fee policy, and that was talked about a little bit during the cost allocation plan when we brought our recreation fees forward. Our recreation manager, Chris Farrow, spoke on that briefly. But basically what that is staff is going to be working to bring forward some for consideration to the City Council, and we'll work through the Park and Rec Commission with this as well, to bring some ideas forward to make our fee program a little bit more equitable and affordable for all of our youth in Brentwood. And by doing that, the goal is to increase participation, which then increases our revenue to offset any costs for that. So that fee policy is the other piece of that. So those are really the 2 initiatives that are included under that goal number 4. And that particular fee policy does not have any fiscal impact attached to it, as that is a policy change that will be done by staff.
Do we want to then make, how like all of them have like 2 and then the subpoints, 3 and then the subpoints? Because this is a really big umbrella. Would it be worth it to do 4 and the subpoints, like implement in the year, whatever, the adaptive recreation, and number 2, ensure that fees, whatever our goals were with the fees, to make sure that they're fair and equitable? Should we be that specific? Because if not, it just seems like this could be anything.
If council feels that would be a good way to show that, I think that is a good suggestion, and we could make that A and B, with A being implementing adaptive recreation and B reviewing our fee policy.
Okay, and I do think that we need to talk about the programming. I think we should probably, when we're not crazy busy like we are now, is sit down and look at what other programs we might want, I think, for seniors and kids and youth. But, and then we could add those bullets underneath this and be very specific and understand the cost associated with all of those programs. I don't know how anyone else feels about that.
Generally, hasn't staff created programs? I mean, generally programming doesn't come through us. It generally is done on the staff level, and the fees come through us for approval, but not the programming itself. And I believe I had brought up during, maybe it was when we were looking at the budget and what to bring back, I did bring up the fact about the adaptive recreation, and at that time was told that it had already been put into place. So, and and that was why we weren't adding it, because it was already in place, or you had already gone through and done all of that. So that was a question I had on it as well, is if we had already started it, why are we now adding it back when we should have added it back during that budget meeting?
Yeah, so I think regarding adaptive recreation, there were some programs that we've implemented with a partner, but this particular item is where they bringing on a consultant, and it was part of the initial items that were put on the deferred list, and we're bringing those items from that deferred list back onto the strategic plan. And the adaptive recreation with the consultant coming on board, that particular process is still in place. So it's still part of the fiscal year 21-22 strategic plan. So we're just replacing it back in there just so it's visible and people can see, and that way when we do complete it, it'll be another one of those items that we can check off as an accomplishment.
Well, these are both programs that need to take place in our city. So I'm glad with it. I do like Councilmember Mendoza's input on how we could add them into the strategic plan as an A and a B.
Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring up the agenda item that I brought up, and I think it was right before we had you back on, Councilmember Rarity, was adaptive programming specific to older adults with disabilities. And wasn't that what the consultant was for? It was for the older adult programming, not specifically for, or generally for all adaptive programming for any age?
It will be a consultant that looks at all ages. It'll focus on all the ages. Mm-hmm.
So the agenda item that I brought up in the very beginning about bringing in more recreation programming for older adults or adults in general with special needs, is that still being?
That is going to be part of working with a consultant and bringing, working through older adults, adults, and youth. So it will be looking at all ages, but we have emphasized older adults in that as well.
Okay, thank you.
And that was all part of our Parks and Recreation master plan that we did prior to doing our strategic plan. And that was one of, people got to get up there and voted on the things that were important to them, and that was one of the items that was very important, was both adults and youth adaptive recreation.
If there's no more questions or comments to staff, Councilmember Mendoza?
Yeah, at this point, if we're okay with it, I'd like to make a motion to accept C3 with the changes that under 4, it is specific to implementing adaptive recreation with a focus on adults. I think that was the original ask back in December, January, or I don't know if Councilmember Meyer, if that might, I know that's something that's dear to your heart, and it's something our city really, really needs. I don't know, are you okay with just?
I think the point of the original, and thank you for asking, the point of the original agenda item I brought up was that we had existing programming for children, for youth with special needs. We didn't have much going on for adults. Once the age of 18 was hit, we didn't have as much going on. So that's what the original agenda item was for.
Okay, so if we have, sorry, go ahead, Bruce.
The RFP for that is already out, so we have a consultant that we're ready to move forward with, but I can tell you that we will be emphasizing older adult adaptive recreation within that contract and consultant process.
Okay. Does the Park and Rec Commission get involved and review RFPs to make sure, because they're our closest line to residents and resident needs, do they get involved in RFPs and make sure, that's exactly what we interpreted the council saying as? How involved are we getting them? Because I think that would actually help Councilmember Meyer.
The Parks and Rec Commission was not included in the RFP writing process or the evaluation process for that. Generally, that is a staff kind of process to go through the RFPs, but it's not to say that when we bring this consultant on, we can review the findings and the process through the Park and Rec Commission to make sure they're involved.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, and that's outside of this, I think that would be extremely helpful because I feel like lately I just haven't been seeing a lot of Park and Rec meetings. So, and they're there for a purpose, and the purpose is to be that conduit to the residents. So if they could be involved, that would be fantastic.
Agreed.
Okay.
Councilmember Meyer.
I just wanted to also agree and say that wouldn't that be comparable to the Planning Commission holding design review discussion and voting? It seems like a very similar process to me. I'm sorry, my voice is very light. It seems like it would be a very similar kind of process to have Parks and Rec Commission be part of that discussion.
Yes, we can. They will be involved with the consultant. We'll find ways to make sure they're involved in what the consultant brings forward and reviewing those findings.
Okay, so with that, I'd like to make a motion to accept C3 with its under 4. We have a sub-bullet that is very specific to implementing adaptive recreation and reassessing the fee policy to enhance opportunities for seniors, youth, and teens. Is that okay?
Okay. Wait, didn't Bruce, didn't you say it was for the youth that the fee policy was going to be for?
The fee, it's looking at our recreation program fee policy.
So for youth, teens, and seniors, or was it, I thought you said it was just for the youth?
It's mainly youth, but we can look at our entire department fee policy, and if there's fees that have to do with seniors, we will evaluate those as well under that umbrella.
Okay.
Damien, did you have something that you would like to?
Just wanted to clarify with Councilmember Mendoza that it was actually going to be 2 sub-bullets, not one. The first one being the adaptive recreation, the second one being the fee program, an A and a B. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
So it sounds like you have a motion on the floor then, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
First and the second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruri?
Aye.
Mayor Bryant?
Aye.
Motion carries with Vice Mayor Rodriguez absent.
Okay. At this time, we will move to public hearings. Persons addressing the City Council successor agency are asked to use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. Council may adopt reasonable regulations at the onset of public hearings to facilitate public testimony. These regulations may include time limits, and in the absence of such regulations, the public hearing will follow the protocol for public comments. Item D1, the consideration of a zoning text amendment, a parcel map, design review approval, and a proposal to meet the affordable housing requirement for the Orchard Trails Development Project. And I will turn it to Eric Nolfenius to provide the report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm going to share my screen here. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. Great, thank you. So last year, the council approved the Walnut Villas project, which is a 77-unit single-family subdivision proposed by Shea Homes. The project, which was later renamed Orchard Trails, is located south of Continental Avenue and west of Walnut Boulevard. I'm showing the project site here outlined in yellow, and as you may be able to see, the site is generally surrounded by existing single-family development across Continental Avenue to the north, also across Walnut Boulevard to the east, and directly to the west. There's some existing commercial development also along Walnut Boulevard, which the project site is not part of. And then directly south of the site is the city limits and the ECCID main canal. And this is just an overview of the actual tentative subdivision map that was approved, again, by the council last November, showing the 77 units and how the site was going to be subdivided. Given the number of units that was provided as part of the project, it was required to comply with the city's affordable housing ordinance. So on March 15th of this year, the council's Land Use and Development Committee met to review the developer's proposal for satisfying what was a 2-unit low-income obligation. And the committee ultimately recommended that it be met through the construction of 2 duet units on the site. On June 15th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to consider the entitlements that were necessary in order to implement this plan for complying with the Affordable Housing Ordinance and recommended that they be approved by the council. So there are 3 entitlements in total. The first is a zoning text amendment to the PD 47 district, which would establish reduced lot size and side yard setback requirements for the 2 duet lots. The second is a parcel map that would create 2 lots from what was originally shown as lot number 30 on the vesting tentative subdivision map. And that's what I have on the screen here. You can see the northerly lot, which is now lot 78, and then the southerly lot, which is the original lot 30. So the original lot 30 was this entire area, and it's simply being split in 2 for those 2 duets. And then the third is the actual design review of the duet units themselves. They're being proposed in what's called a traditional architectural style. Other features of the units include a flat tile roof, stucco siding with some horizontal wood siding for accent, some stone wainscoting, and then also some decorative shutters. Each unit is, of course, a 2-story unit, and they are approximately 2,000 square feet in size. And this you can see here the rear elevation as well as the 2 side elevations on the screen here. To memorialize the plan for the developer's compliance with the affordable housing obligation, SHAE is required to enter into an affordable housing agreement with the city. So staff has worked with the applicant to obtain a signed agreement that represents the approach recommended by the Land Use and Development Committee to meet that obligation. Although the final map for the project has not yet been recorded, the developer has recently started work on the site. That includes grading and the installation of utilities, as well as the construction of 4 model homes along Continental Avenue. I do want to point out that since the public hearing was noticed, there have not been any comments received from the public on this particular item. The entitlements are also exempt from CEQA and do not require any additional analysis beyond what was prepared for the original project approvals last year. I do want to note that we have Sylvia Elias in attendance tonight, and she's available for any questions the council may have with respect to the affordable housing agreement specifically. She's the city's senior housing analyst and worked with the applicant in terms of getting the signed agreement. So there are 4 separate actions the council will need to take in order to approve this item tonight. Those include adoption of an ordinance for the zoning text amendment, and then corresponding resolutions for the parcel map, the design review, and the affordable housing agreement. That concludes my presentation, so I will turn it back to the mayor at this point for any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions of staff regarding this item? Councilmember Rary.
I've got a few questions. You know, I looked at the back of this home as well as the back of the duets as well as the back of all of the 2 stories within the development. And I thought that the city had design standards where there needs to have some type of architectural design components to the back of the house so that we weren't a city with a sea of flat-backed houses. Has that changed?
No, the design guidelines have not changed. I will say, you know, the duets are a little bit unique in terms of how they're designed. I think the applicant did, you know, a pretty good job in terms of designing the units so that they would blend in as well as possible with the existing, not the existing, but the prior approved units. It's a little bit different architectural style. I do have, as part of my presentation, I'm going to click through this. by the way, I know there were some questions earlier today about photographs of kind of what these units would look like. So I included them at the back of the presentation here. These are pictures of basically the same units that were constructed at a separate Shea project in Mountain House. This shows the front elevation with the garages, and then the next picture, sorry, it's oriented a little bit differently, but this is the one side elevation, and this is the other side elevation. The other thing the applicant did, and he sent this to me, Dave Best from Shea Homes, kind of late today, but this is an exhibit that basically shows the elevations of the 4 prior approved models and then how the duets kind of fit in with those. So this is the plan 1, which is a little bit different because it's a single-story plan, but you can kind of see some of the same elements. I'm just going to click through these somewhat quickly, but I can stop at any time if there's other questions. This is plan 2, which is also a single-story. And then plan 3, which is a 2-story, which I think probably is a little bit better comparison because of the nature of the duets.
But see, even in there, as I said, the backs are just flat.
And when you say flat, you're just talking about like the pop-outs, or are you talking about accent details, or?
Well, I mean, even when we purchased our home, when we first moved here in 1995, I remember that they started talking after that instead of having an entire back, well, like see in this picture that you have up there at the top, that's more of something that's got some architectural design in the back instead of just a completely flat back of the house. And so that was something that, I had hoped to see through all of the homes and not just this one model here. Mm-hmm. So I was a little disappointed in seeing that, and I don't know when that changed and how we go back to creating some architectural or visual differences in the backs of homes so that we aren't just looking at a sea of straight-backed homes. The next question is the right and left sides of the house. Why does which is the entry point? It's not, while the front is basically the garage, it really isn't. I mean, the side of the house where the house is your front door, it looks like the side of a house. It looks like the side of a house where you enter into somebody's garage door, side garage door there. Mm-hmm. I find it strange that the stonework stops at the door instead of continuing over where a front porch would, or a front, the front of a house would have stone all the way across. I thought maybe it was because there would be a fence there, but when we got pictures from the other development that has the same home, the fence is much further back. So is there a way to extend the stonework so that it goes across the entire side of that house, the sides of the homes, so they don't, it just looks strange to only have it halfway there.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say, I'd say 2 things about this. One is, the design of the duets is obviously within the council's purview. That's one of the actions tonight. So to the extent the council would like to see changes to the proposed design, I would just say as long as those are clear to staff, we can note that in the adopting resolution and ensure those changes are made on the building plans, for construction. Okay. And then the other thing is I would definitely ask Mr. Best to respond to some of these design concerns and get a good take from him or good read from him in terms of what he'll be able to do to accommodate those.
Okay. The other thing is the location of the utility boxes and the water there. While it's showing just 2 things there, I mean, if you looked at the other house, there was multiple things on the side of the house, and as they are you know, as they're closer to the front door, is there any way to bring them so they're towards the back of the house, where the not in the backyard, but next to where the fence would be, versus towards the front of the house? Because they are eyesores, and this is where people enter into their houses. So if there's any way to change the utility boxes and the water to be moved. Also, these shutters are kind of strange. You got these teeny tiny shutters on one window, on the top one, the right elevation, and on the left you've got two tiny little two little shutters on the sides of those. So it's not, there's not a lot of architectural design on the sides of the house. Again, these are the fronts of somebody's door. I mean, where you enter into the front door. And then if you look at the front of the house, you'll notice the windows. I don't know if you can see, but there's, in addition to the framing that goes around the window, there are a little bit of another architectural added on to that. There's two little things at the bottom of the windows. If we could carry those around to the sides of the homes as well, that might help the windows a little bit, to give it a little bit extra architectural design to them, instead of just having, you know, the stucco around the windows. What else was there? So I think that's all that I had for that. And so maybe he can comment to those requests.
Great, thank you.
I think you said Councilwoman Mendoza. You're on mute. It's okay. I read your lips. First of all, I want to say thank you to Shea Homes for these affordable housing units. It's a long time coming in Brentwood, and I'm really excited about it. And everything's fantastic. But when it does come to the architecture, I'm a little bit let down. And I have a Shea Home, so I've always been a fan. I've been here 20 years. Especially the front door, and I do understand they're affordable housing, but if you could put up the picture, Eric, where you can see like the actual picture of the front door, like not the other one. That's like the garage. Yeah, there's another one that actually is closer up that you can, that one. If you can make that a little bit bigger. This doesn't feel like a front door. And I'm not an architect. I don't know what we can do, but if there's something we can do to make it not stand out like I'm affordable housing, I would really like it, because we want people to feel welcome, to not feel like they're bringing down the community. We don't want anyone to have any kind of stigma if they purchase one of these homes. We want them to be proud that they live there and hold their head high. So if there's anything, again, I'm not, but maybe the stonework going all the way across might be helpful. Maybe that cover over the door, even though the door's not that wide, maybe making that a little bit wider might help. And I know there's not a lot you can do about the utility boxes, because I think they're inside the garage, and where the back of the house is probably inside the house. So I'm not sure how much you can do about that. But if we could just give it a little bit of like something, that would be great. And I do understand what Councilman Rary says. I mean, your homes usually do have some nice pop-outs in the back. Ours do. My neighbors do. There's a little bit more architectural interest. So I don't know if there's anything that would be easy for you to turn around, like on that. I'm not sure. But those are kind of my comments.
Eric, if you could have the individual representing the applicant comment on this, that would be helpful.
Yeah, Mayor, I think he'd be happy to do that once the council's done with any additional questions.
Okay. Any further questions of staff? Okay, I see none. Oh, Councilmember Meyer.
A little slow today, thank you. Not a question. It's basically that I very much agree with the idea that we want people to be very proud of living here, and we don't want them to stand out in any way, shape, or form. I think the points that are made so far, I think, are fantastic. I would agree with all of them. So again, not questions, just encouragement to see what we can do to improve the looks even more and make them blend in a little bit better with the rest of the models. Thank you.
Even on this picture, if you see, look, there's a whole lot more shutters. They're not just not the two on the little one. They've gone to the extent of putting them on the other windows, so that adds a little bit more. And then it looks like there's a false window up here with shutters there that also adds some architectural. So yeah, things like that.
Hey, Eric, turn it to you.
Oh, well, if the council is done with questions, I made some notes in terms of things that the council is looking for. So at this point, I would just recommend opening up the public hearing and having the applicant make a little bit of a presentation and respond to some of these kind of design questions, unless there was other specific questions of me.
Yeah, I have no further questions. All my questions were covered by the other council members. So at this time then, if there are no further questions from the council, we will open the public hearing. Margaret.
I muted and unmuted myself. I received 0 written public comments on this item. I'll call upon the applicant first, Dave Best from Shea Homes, and he'll have 10 minutes to speak. Mr. Best, go ahead.
Okay, so I think I've unmuted myself. If y'all can hear me. So thank you, Council, for your comments, and thanks, Eric, for a good presentation. I made some notes as well, and so if I can address the architecture questions, I actually, strangely enough, I think I share some of the concerns. And if I can share my screen, I think I can do that here. One of the things that I wanted to point out is how this building is oriented to the street. So when it comes to the front door elevations, which technically is the side of the house, it's really only this Plan 4 that is going to be visible from the front. The Plan 3 front door is really kind of more on an extra wide side yard, so it's not really visible to the street. And one of the things that I might propose is that for the Plan 4, which is really the right side elevation of the home here, we've been considering extending this porch out a little bit. Perhaps not all the way to the corner of the building, but to some extent there to more closely match the typical homes that are in this neighborhood that do have front porches. So I think we're willing to do that. I think that would really help this front door elevation. It'll bring this shed roof element, much longer across the facade, and I think that would really help this elevation. So if that kind of works for you, I think we're willing to do that. As for the Plan 3 elevation, this one really is kind of not visible from the street. So, I think, I'm not sure that extending the stone to the back here would really do much for the street scene. But we have been working with our architect, and there's a potential that we may add, if you can see my cursor where this kind of purple bush is rendered, we may be able to add some type of an arch structure here to kind of create an entry for the pathway to the front door that's visible from what really is the front of the home, which is along this street here. So that would be my proposal to satisfy those two concerns as it relates to these elevations where the front doors of each unit exist. As for the rear, remember, there's going to be a fence here. So again, the way that this house is oriented, we don't show it here, but somewhere along this facade, we will have a fence that will shield the backyard from Cider Drive here, and then you're really not going to see a whole lot of the first. You're really not going to see the first floor of the back elevation at all. And then one of the reasons that this is flat is just because of the way the floor plans work. We're doing our best to get as much square footage into the house as possible on a small footprint. And so, frankly, in the world of home architecture, the big box is the most efficient way to deal with the interior spaces and get the best living experience. So, if there's still a concern about the rear elevation, then I would propose letting us work with the planning department to see if maybe there's some type of enhancement that we could do along the back here that doesn't expand the footprint of the house, and we can probably work with that. Because if we expanded the footprint, then we start running into setback issues with the rear yard, and that could run afoul of our zoning. So, those are kind of our. Oh, the other issue was the utilities. Councilwoman Mendoza is correct. Unfortunately, the utilities have to be exposed to the street. PG&E won't allow you to put meters behind fences, so we're a little bit stuck there. The additional boxes that you saw on the actual photographs were the solar pieces, and that is unique to Mountain House, actually, because MID, which is the electrical service provider in Mountain House, requires that all the solar disconnects occur on the exterior of the home. We don't have that requirement here with PG&E, so you won't see quite as many boxes out on the outside, but you will see the gas and the electric box on the plan 4. There's really no way to avoid that. That's going to have to occur right here where this 21-foot setback arrow is located, just because there's really no other way to do it, unfortunately. And I think that addressed all of the concerns. If there was any I missed, please let me know or ask me some questions, and I'd be happy to answer them for you. And, of course, any other questions with the project, with the decisions in front of you that you have for me, I'd be happy to answer those too.
The arch you're talking about, would that be out of stucco as an extension of the house over there, or would it be?
Well, I'm kind of brainstorming a little bit. What it would be an extension off to the side here in some manner that might just create an entry feature. So we would have to work with our architect to see if that really would work with the elevational style. I was just trying to address the concern that, let me get back to the front here, that some sense of arrival to your front door for this unit that's over here on the left side of the building, because the right side of the building obviously is going to be well exposed to the street, so it's really easy to have a pathway and a nice arrival point to the front door. But this one is a little bit more difficult because the front door is really on a side yard. So something to frame the walkway that's going to come off of the public walk to the front door, we would try to do something there. And I apologize, I'm a little mealy-mouthed because I'm not the architect, and but we can certainly come up with something that's a little bit more architecturally appropriate and well thought out to present to the planning department.
So you would be willing to extend the stone on the right side all the way to the back and do an extension of the front porch also towards the back or towards the front? So would you go bring it towards the front of the house?
Well, this is a little bit reversed, right? So what I would propose is that, because this is the garage part of the wall, I think I would propose that porch kind of comes out this direction, which in plan view, oops, beg your pardon, I accidentally closed my my land plan. Bear with me for just a second. While I refined my here it is. So I'm just bringing back up the development plan. So that front porch element would occur right here. So if you're standing on Cider Drive looking at the house, that front porch would kind of extend to the right side of the building. And this would be where your stone wainscot would be and your utility boxes.
And you would
if
do
that makes sense.
Towards the back of the house as well, on that side.
I guess I'm confused when you say the back of the house.
Well, where you're looking at extending the porch.
Correct. So
okay.
I would say that porch would would go here, not necessarily all the way to the corner, but wherever it seems architecturally appropriate to have a porch off of that front door.
Okay.
And then that would that would be a little more similar to some of the existing architecture that's part of our approved design. So, for example, this home, which has a porch, and this one just happens to be in the center. This home also porch in the center. This one has a small porch on the front, but I think that would really help the architectural feel of this side elevation. And that's the one that's prominent to the street, right?
Okay.
Are there any further questions of the applicant?
I don't know if this is for the applicant or for our own staff, because Mr. Best said he was working with his architect to design something. Could we hold off on this one item and wait to see drawings for that before we move forward on? I'd like to see drawings before I approve it. Is that something we can do? And just wait on that one item? Everything else would be good to go?
Yeah, I think it would be possible. I mean, it's obviously a package item, but the design review is basically the last item. You have to approve the zoning text amendment, which would facilitate then creating those smaller parcels and identifying the setbacks that would be provided on site. And then the design changes could come back for basically be like a deferred approval.
Okay.
Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you. In talking about the rear architecture and changing the design without increasing the footprint, could you do awnings as a way to just give it a little bit more depth and interest, plus making it shady?
We could consider that. Perhaps you're talking about just kind of like a shed roof extension off of the first floor.
Not a full, sided kind of thing, just something off the back that would give it a little bit more interest.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we could do that. We could consider that. I don't know that you're going to see that much because you wouldn't raise, depending on how deep you make it, right? The deeper or the wider, I guess, that little porch element that you create, the higher that roof element will go up on the wall. And so we don't really have a lot of room in the rear yards here to extend that too far. So we could do that. You just be aware you probably won't see a whole lot of it. You might only see a couple of feet over the rear fence as you're driving down the street. But certainly that would be something we could consider.
Okay, thank you.
I think that in addition to what people from the community and going down the sidewalk and street see, I think it's equally important that the resident feels the impact of those changes as well, so that they don't feel like they're not standing on their own front porch. And if anything to cover them when it's raining or inclement weather while they're trying to get their keys out, any of that would be very helpful as well.
Okay.
If there are no further questions of applicant or staff, then I will turn it to Margaret to finish her portion.
I do have one more question. The house that's going to be next to it, is there any way to not have the gate that will be on that side of the house, make the gate on the other side, so that people aren't walking out to see somebody's garbage can sitting there waiting to be put away into their backyard?
If I understand you correctly, you're asking about what would be
40,
the wing fence.
40. So, if they'll have their fence there. So if you put a gate right there when somebody's coming out their front door, they could be looking straight at somebody's garbage cans because they haven't put them away.
Well, I think the nice thing about how this lays out, the lot 40's garbage cans are going to be here, so you're going to have a side yard fence on lot 40 that runs basically like this, right? And then this is the rear fence. So the other fence for the lot 30 is probably going to be somewhere in this location. We haven't. Then that's going to be the fence that encloses their rear yard. So I don't think that that's going to be an issue. The plan, this lot 30 is going to haul their garbage cans out through their garage, and lot 40 is going to haul theirs over here, and lot 29 over here.
Got it. I just remembered from when you brought this in front of us at the Land Use and Development, how both the duets, when there was a duet on that lot 40, were both faced towards that street that the duet's facing towards. But I do see now that it's the other direction.
I see where you're going now. Yes, when there was a second duet on lot 40 here, then that could have been an issue. But now that we're at it,
that could have been a big issue. Okay, right. No need to change that then. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I will turn it to you now, Margaret, to finish your portion.
If you wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand using the Zoom feature, and I'll call upon your name if provided and unmute you to speak. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person, and your microphone will be muted after the timer has expired. And I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Seeing that there were no hands raised, we will close comment. If there are no further speakers, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Rary?
Aye.
Mayor Bryant?
Aye.
Motion carries with Vice Mayor Rodriguez absent.
Thank you. If there are any council members that have further comments or questions or wish to express your further comments, just raise your hand and we'll call you in order. And if not, could I get, well, we're going to need some motions here. Councilmember Rary.
I too want to say that I'm thrilled that we're finally getting affordable homes in. It's something that we have needed for a long time. I know Sylvia's got a long waiting list of people who are looking forward to having a home, and this brings two new families closer to home ownership. So that's very exciting. And that's all I needed to say.
Thank you. So as detailed in the staff report, I move the introduction and waiver of the first reading of an ordinance approving a zoning text amendment for the Orchard Trails project. Margaret?
I believe we'll need a second, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Do I have a second?
Wait, are you doing all four at once?
No, one at a time.
One at a time.
So you did number one first?
I did.
Okay, I'll second that.
We have a first and a second. Margaret?
An ordinance of the City Council approving a rezone RZ 21003, amending subarea C of the Plan Development Number 47, PD 47 zone to establish development standards for 2 duet units within the approved single-family development known as Orchard Trails, located south of Continente Avenue and west of Walnut Boulevard.
We have a first and a second. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Rary?
Aye.
Mayor Bryant?
Aye.
Motion carries with Vice Mayor Rodriguez absent.
Do I have a motion for the...
I'll make a motion. As detailed in the staff report, I move the adoption of a resolution approving a parcel map for Orchard Trails.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Rary?
Aye.
Mayor Bryant?
Aye.
And let the record, the motion carries with Vice Mayor Rodriguez absent.
Okay. Do I have a motion for part 3?
Part three. Oh, I'm sorry. I had a question about what?
They were going to come back to us with.
Yes. So how do we make that? I just make a motion to defer until final architect drawings are submitted with the improvements that we suggested.
Damien, would that work as a motion?
I think my boss is waiting for me to jump in. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Yes, Councilmember Mendoza, if you would make that motion, then we will re-agendize this item. Alternatively, if you wanted to add language asking that staff work with the applicant to put your vision in place, we could come up with language to include in the resolution, and you could act on it tonight, whatever you're comfortable with, but that would be another way of moving all of the items along.
I make a motion that staff work with Shea Homes on the architectural suggestions we made. I still would like for it to come back for final review with council.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and understand that you wish to defer action on this item until that time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Second.
And a second. Roll call vote.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the second.
It was Councilmember Rary.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Rary?
Aye.
Mayor Bryant?
Aye.
Motion carries with Vice Mayor Rodriguez absent.
Okay. Do I have a motion for item 4?
I make a motion as detailed in the staff report. I move the adoption of resolution approving the proposed Orchard Trails Affordable Housing Agreement and authorizing its execution.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Happy to say yes on this one.
Councilmember Meyer?
Me too, yes.
Councilmember Rary?
Absolutely, yes.
Mayor Bryant?
Absolutely, yes.
Motion carries with Vice Mayor Rodriguez absent.
I love it how happy we all are at 8:20 at night.
thank you, Council. On behalf of Shay, we'll be sure to come back with some revised architecture for you here as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Shay has always been a good partner with the city and bringing our communities, so thank you for your good work.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
At this time, we will move into item E1, an MOU and city subsidy for delivery and administration of the Main Street America program for downtown Brentwood. And I will turn it to Joshua Ewan, who will present the item.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for your time this evening. How's the audio and video?
We hear you well.
Great, thank you. Sorry about the little dog in the background. Tonight we're returning to the full council to discuss the Main Street America Strategic Initiative. That's part of your current strategic initiative for the current budget year, as well as present a memorandum of understanding with the Downtown Brentwood Coalition to help move that initiative forward, not only in this year, but the two following budget years moving forward. In terms of background, we just wanted to give a little bit of a snapshot, as detailed in the report, of what is going on in downtown. We're seeing some positive trends, certainly coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're seeing a pretty good high level of building occupancy in the retail core area with services, restaurants, and retailers, as well as we're experiencing some new leasing and future tenants that will create some great opportunities for new businesses in the downtown. Staff in the Economic Development Division and other divisions, as well as the city, have been coordinating with the Downtown Brentwood Coalition, talking about recovery strategies and working with downtown businesses to help them not only manage the last year, but also look forward to the recovery for those businesses. As well as a major initiative for the Economic Development Division is we're going through a downtown specific plan update, working with downtown stakeholders. In addition, we're working on the finalizing of a proposed EISD for the downtown and Brentwood Boulevard area. So tonight's action comes out of City Council strategic initiative, which you've already approved for the Main Street program. We're trying to move that forward. And just the last council meeting on June 22nd, you approved a amendment to the operating budget for $50,000 for the current budget year, 21-22, for the Main Street Strategic Initiative Program, and also committed funding for fiscal year 22-23 and 23-24 to be reserved at the end of the budget cycle within the general fund, helping to fund and move the program forward. So a little bit about Main Street America. The Downtown Brentwood Coalition, or effectively the DBC, has been an affiliate member of Main Street America since 2019. Main Street America is a rigorous program, has rigorous program standards for the revitalization and economic development of historic districts and downtowns throughout the nation. In looking forward, in looking at the Main Street accreditation, the City of Brentwood and the DBC would become one of 847 accredited programs nationwide, with some great regional partners that have Main Street programs, including Livermore, Pleasanton, Martinez, Benicia, and Richmond. And we would love to continue to follow that model for economic development and the progress of our downtown. As mentioned, the Main Street America program, even as an affiliate member, the organization that becomes accredited or affiliated has to meet a rigorous criteria. And that includes, which the DBC has already done, is submitting a mission and vision statement to Main Street America and California Main Street. They have to show evidence of community support. They have to have a focused work plan that focuses on district promotion and economic vitality. They have a historic and cultural preservation component. The DBC has an active board of directors, and they also have an active volunteer base and training that goes along with major events and the board itself. So in order to make that transition from an affiliate member to an accredited member, which is the highest tier for Main Street America, the next step that's outlined in the Memorandum of Understanding is to hire a full-time program director or an executive director, program manager, and also create a physical office location that becomes a space for the downtown manager to be able to work out of and become a mailing office and do business operations out of. In the budget cycle, which was June 22nd, the City Council approved funding for a full-time program manager over the next 3 years, and with further direction not only from the Land Use and Development Committee, as well as the full council, that we would be looking at a physical office location with a no to minimal cost to the city to have a program manager work as an office for the DVC. So with tonight's action, we're asking for approval of a memorandum of understanding. The Downtown Brentwood Coalition is a 501c6 nonprofit organization. They have come to city staff and been working with city staff and city council on this Main Street initiative for the last few years, and they really want to be your partner in delivering the Main Street program and the revitalization and continued success of downtown. With the understanding in this agreement is that they will be the Main Street America accredited member on behalf of the city, and they will not only receive accreditation, but also continue to meet the specific national standards and requirements of the program that are exhibited by members throughout our area. In addition, the DVC will hire an executive director. At no time will that executive director be considered an employee of the city. So with that, I'd like to introduce the executives of the all-volunteer group for the Downtown Brentwood Coalition. Peter Jockaway is the DVC president, as well joined by Becky Bloomfield, who is the vice president. Both work and or own businesses in the downtown, and they're highly invested in the success and partnership with the City Council on the Main Street Initiative. So Peter, Becky, are you available? So Margaret, if we can, Peter, can you go ahead and turn on your video and unmute?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Excellent. Sorry, that link kind of put us on pause for a minute. Anyways, thank you, Mayor Bryant, City Council staff, Vice Mayor Rodriguez. I know you're not there, but thank you for having us. And Becky and I are here. Becky Bloomfield is our Vice President of the Downtown Brentwood Coalition, and she's going to speak on behalf of our board.
Hello, thank you guys for having us and hearing us tonight. Again, thanks for Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, and staff for this opportunity. We have been working with the city for the last 11 years, 13 years, and have done great things, and we appreciate your support and your continuous support. As you know, the Downtown Brentwood Coalition was established in 2008. Basically, what we were doing is bringing awareness to the downtown community in that very struggling time of the Great Recession. And since then, obviously, the downtown has been thriving. We are not taking full credit for that, but we think that with our community support that we've done in supporting our local businesses, that we've done a good job. And again, as Josh Ewing stated, that we have met all criteria for being a Main Street America, which is basically supporting our downtown community, bringing awareness, stimulating the economy with great new businesses in our downtown. This executive director, with partnership with the city, our focus is to increase our membership diversity, focus promotion, marketing, and advertising, increase traffic sales, and also take note of our history of downtown and the surrounding communities. So with that being said, we are super excited. We feel like we're one step closer to being Main Street America, and we feel that our organization with the city has worked very hard towards this goal, and we appreciate your consideration.
Great. Thank you, Peter and Becky. If you could stick around for questions from council, we'd be glad to have your assistance if there are any questions.
Absolutely.
So with that, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Mr. Staff? Or of PJ and Becky?
Oh, sorry, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Jackaway and Becky. I do have a question. What are the benefits of becoming accredited with Main Street America versus what has already been, so that the community can understand what's coming?
Well, Mr. Mayor, honestly, this has been something that's been pushed for several years, and we've attended conferences and had a lot of conversations with members of the board for the National Main Street and CAMSA, which is the California Main Street Association. They offer a lot of benefits and fundraising, grants that normal, it's really hard to get to. But if you're in that association, there are certain grants that the states, the federal do provide, revitalization tactics and resources. I think we've discussed that in previous meetings with council, is the resources that they offer have a lot more benefit than just where we can go find anywhere else. So there's a lot of things, the structure part, which, the board before I was on it has really had a good vision and implemented the proper techniques, the structure, the boards, the events, just the promotion of our downtown and brick and mortars. So we've already done a lot of that stuff in the past, but we feel that with the resources and the experiences that our surrounding cities just locally have done, that can open a lot more windows and opportunity for our downtown Brentwood.
Thank you. Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Jackaway and Ms. Bloomfield. Very nice to chat with you. I wish we could see you. Some of the cities that were mentioned, Livermore, Benicia, have these really wonderful, beautiful, vibrant downtown locations. And I'm wondering what you see as potential growth and expansion, if the accreditation would help with that concept of the idea of bringing downtown even further into the side streets, for example, the walking paths, getting more businesses that will increase the head count of people that come in there on a regular basis. Do you see the accreditation making any of those kinds of changes for us or making them easier for us?
Hi, Council Meyer. Yes, I truly believe that being a part of Main Street America is something that an investor or somebody who's coming in to take over an existing building or a business would see a benefit of, being that the downtown has gone this extra mile to become accredited Main Street America. It is a very, I don't want to say tedious task, but the criteria that we have done, and I would say almost accidentally, because we were just so pro downtown, as you know, that I've been a member of this community for a long time. But we have worked so hard in promoting the downtown and bringing awareness to the downtown when we really felt like we were, people didn't even know that we existed. And because of that, the traffic has increased. The people who have come in and started new businesses has increased. The quality of businesses has been, phenomenal. And with the current vacancies in some of these lots that we have in the downtown, I think that having somebody to come to representing our downtown Brentwood as our executive director could really talk a lot about, the quality of downtown, the quality of our community, how well we work with the city, because they're going to want to know those things. And I truly believe that everything that we've done is just going to be expanded upon in the future.
Great. Thank you. And hello, by the way.
Hello.
Are there any further questions before we move to public comment? Seeing none, then we will move to public comment.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of additional slides just to run through real quick, and it'll just be brief if that's okay.
Please.
Thank you, sir. So in terms of the Economic Development Division, we'll continue to coordinate with the Executive Director. I know Council had, through the budget process, directed city staff to make sure that we have a close coordination and relationship with the DVC, which we see continuing. And that once that Executive Director is hired, working on behalf of the DVC, we'll continue to move things forward for the city and the DVC, just working on mutual goals. The financial contribution that is outlined in the MOU is reimbursement-based. So the expectation is that there is a performance of the director and the DVC, and city staff will be the one managing how the financial reimbursement goes and making sure that the goals of the city are met and that there is a benefit to the downtown in going through the reimbursement process. And the DVC does agree through the agreement that they will achieve Main Street accreditation and keep that status in good standing for at least the 3-year term, and hopefully further than that as things progress in the downtown in a positive direction. So in terms of measuring success, which I believe we're all interested in, there is an annual reporting component to Main Street America. This report is boilerplate that they provide us, and the DVC hired director and the board will be working with the city to do progress reports annually to make sure we catch a lot of these characters and provide them to the Main Street program, and then we could also provide that to council as needed, and be glad to do that. In terms of the focus area, included in the Memorandum of Understanding, the Downtown Specific Plan area is really the goal for the heart of the core of downtown. A lot of the past redevelopment investment by the City Council and the agency board over time has been in the core. And so continuing within that boundary, just looking at focus improvements and focus beautification within that area, we'll try to align some of the Main Street initiatives and the focus of the executive director on the core. But also the DVC has a current membership portfolio that's rather large. And so it's not only the core, it's also advocating and doing social media and membership on behalf of a regional component of the downtown and East Brentwood. And with that director, the DVC board does want to do a membership program review and amend different programs, get more involvement from businesses, provide more support, and also look at revenue sources that might be available and working with businesses that might be outside the direct core. Fiscal impact, it was outlined in previous budget actions by the City Council. So I just wanted to outline that here. In current year, we expect about 9 months of salary, that's about $50,000, and then a $70,000 commitment for the following 2 years. There is no commitment from the city in year 4, so there will be incentive for the director who is hired to look at revenue, as well as the DVC to look at whether it's events, memberships, possible sources of revenue that help stabilize their program and fund the DVC executive director position. So with that, staff is recommending adoption of a resolution approving the city manager or designee to execute the Memorandum of Understanding with the Downtown Brentwood Coalition to administer the Main Street program for the following next 3 years. And with that, approving a city subsidy in fiscal year 21-22, not to exceed $50,000. If there's any questions, we'd be glad to answer those. Thank you for your time this evening. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mendoza.
Hi, thank you. I think this is great. I mean, I think anything that helps our businesses is fantastic. So hopefully other areas can learn some best practices and leverage that to increase their traffic as well. I have a question, and I couldn't find it in the packet unless I missed it. Do we know where they're physically going to be sitting yet? I know that there was some questions about where this person would be located.
Yes, we're going to be exploring that with both Peter and Becky. We have some potential city facilities that could be low cost and no cost. And then that action, depending on what that is, would be brought back to council, whether it's a lease agreement or any type of form of agreement where the DVC would be occupying city property. There's also potentially an option that a private party member would be able to lease space out to the DVC.
Okay. And then the other thing, just for our residents, so we committed to 3 years, and I think during the economic development meeting, they're hoping that their membership increases enough that they can pay for this headcount on their own, right, after year 3, if I recall correctly during our meeting?
Yes, okay. That agreement can, the progress of the DVC, the executive director, can be brought back to council at that time of year 4 to discuss additional agreements. Whether there's a fiscal subsidy or not would be up to the city council at that time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions to staff. So at this time, we'll open public comment. Margaret?
I received 0 written public comments on this item. If you wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand using the Zoom feature, and I'll call upon a name if provided and unmute you to speak. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person, and your microphone will be muted after the timer has expired. And I'm seeing no raised hands.
Okay, then at this time we will close public comment. Does council have any further comment or Councilmember Rary?
You know, this is really exciting. I want to say that I learned about in 2016 they started talking about this. They, longer than that, but to see it finally getting to this point is very exciting. I've been here 26 years, and there's been times where downtown had a lot of businesses or storefronts that just weren't open. And to finally see the downtown thriving the way it is, all the events that this coalition puts together with all the volunteers they get out there to really make an effort to improve the downtown area and bring community together has been refreshing. And I really am excited for the next steps in this. I think there'll be great things that come from it, and I'd like to make the motion on this. I know that others can make comments after I've said that, but I would like to make a motion. As detailed in the staff report, I move the adoption of resolution approving an MOU and city subsidy for delivery and administration of the Main Street America program for downtown Brentwood.
Second.
You're on mute.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Rary?
Aye.
Mayor Bryant?
Aye.
Motion carries with Vice Mayor Rodriguez absent.
Wonderful. Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Becky and Peter, for your outstanding work. I'm looking forward to this. This is exciting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council and staff, very much.
Yes,
much
thank you,
appreciated.
guys.
We're very excited.
Yep.
Thank you.
A great opportunity for all of us. Thank you so much.
So at this time, we'll move on to item E2, an ordinance pertaining to the Arts and Youth Commissions, the Public Art Program, and Brentwood's Poet Laureate. And I'll turn it to Chris Farrow, who will present the item.
Good evening once again, Mayor and Council. I'm actually going to take this item, and Chris will take the next BNC item. So, yes, this item before you is an update to the Brentwood Municipal Code regarding the Arts Commission, the Youth Commission, Public Art Program, and our Poet Laureate. We have been working with the City Attorney's Office to update the Muni Code as it relates to all commissions in an effort to update codes so that the commission codes are more uniform and consistent with current needs and practices. Back in November of last year, commission changes were brought to the council, and at that time, council declined to move forward. This evening, we are bringing back the commission ordinances that did not require many material changes and were fairly simple to update. Other commissions will be considered separately. So as city commissions were established over time, the municipal code's commission's provisions have not been consistent in their procedural requirements. In addition, the municipal code does not provide for a youth commission as the body was created by city council resolution. The proposed ordinance seeks to bring consistency to the procedural requirements of the city's commissions, reflect current practices, and to bring other provisions of the municipal code up to date. The proposed changes are brought to each of the commissions for their information, and the attached ordinance includes the exhibits that pertain to each of the proposed revised municipal code chapters. The standard revisions to make each of the commission's procedural requirements consistent, include those related to the establishment of the commissions, appointment of members, removal from office procedures, officers, and meetings and rules and procedures. I will go through the main changes of each of the commissions. So first, the Arts Commission. So this reorganizes sections on the powers and duties to better group Art Commission responsibilities. It also separates the public art program into its own chapter and adds a section definitions to a new section by just changing the section numbers. It should be noted that no substantive revisions are being made to the public art regulations and guidelines, as such revisions would be beyond the scope of these updates this evening. Second, the Poet Laureate. The city's Poet Laureate position is currently referenced under the Municipal Code Art Commission's provisions. This revision replaces the Poet Laureate position into its own chapter of the Meeting Code that memorializes the position's current 2-year term and clarifies the appointment for the removal of the Poet Laureate process. And finally, the Youth Commission. The Youth Commission and its bylaws were established by City Council resolution. The proposed ordinance repeals the former resolution and now adds the Youth Commission to the Municipal Code. In addition, it removes, at the request of the Youth Commission, the position of an adult advisor. And that position now, it's because it's been very difficult to fill, and the role of that is being taken over currently by city staff. So the updated ordinance are included in the staff report as well as the red lines. It should be noted that the red lines, even though they appear to have a lot of changes, it's mainly due to just moving sections and formatting. There are no fiscal impacts to the actions this evening. This concludes my report, and myself and staff and Damien, our city attorney, are available to help answer any questions. Thank you.
Staff? Councilmember Ritter.
I've got several questions. The first relates to the Art Commission. And on page 226, agenda page 226, section 2.48.020, qualifications, appointment, subsection B. The mayor appoints the members of the Art Commission with the approval of the City Council. Wasn't this done as a full council interview process during the last Art Commission appointment a couple months ago?
I'll take that one, Bruce, if I could. Yes, Councilmember Ray, that's how the process worked per California state law, and the appointment process is made by the mayor in a city with the directly elected mayor, but it needs to have the council approval. So while the mayor can make the appointment, that appointment's not ratified until the entire council vote, or a majority of the council votes in favor of it. So I don't think, it wasn't my impression that staff was going to change the appointment process that we've gone through recently. That would be up to the council if they wanted to change that.
I thought we were going to be changing that in these when we were setting them up.
That wasn't my understanding. We were focused more here just what the law requires. That other section is more of a council decision if they want what sort of process they want to see for that. But ultimately, you could still have your process you had last time, as long as we stick with the mayor makes the appointments and the council ratifies that appointment or approves that appointment.
Okay. Also on that same page, section 2.48.040, removal from office, subsection A.
Yes.
So it says, and also the Youth Commission, 2.50.040. It says a member of the Arts or Youth Commission, depending on which one you're looking at, may be removed from office by a majority vote of the City Council or by the mayor with the approval of the City Council. Isn't that latter part of the statement redundant? The mayor is always able to put an item on an agenda with the approval of the, without the approval of the council. But for an item the mayor puts on the agenda to pass, it must have a majority vote of the council. And even under the Park and Rec Commission, it currently says members shall be subject to removal by action of the city council without cause.
The reason we put that, and it does at first blush, it does appear duplicative. The reason we put it that way is to account for a possibility, not using our current mayor as an example, if a majority of the council did not feel an arts commissioner or any commissioner should be on the commission, but the mayor did, absent putting this sort of language in, the entire council might not be able to do it because it would say just the mayor would be the one to do it. So this
is for removal.
Yes. So
but it says that it says the mayor is able to. The mayor with the approval of city council.
So again, similar to the appointment, the mayor can appoint, but it needs the approval of the city council. It would be the same for the removal. The mayor could remove, but it would need the approval of the city council. So he'd be the one bringing it forward. But we could envision an instance where perhaps the mayor didn't want to do that, but the council did. We didn't want to take power away from the council to bring something forward by just having it the mayor doing it. We wanted to make sure the council had that authority. State law is silent on the removal side.
Well, as I said, but even in our current Park and Rec Commission, it says removal by action of the city council without cause. So, as I said, this is redundant. The mayor can already, he can put anything he wants on the agenda, or she, whoever it may be, on the agenda without consent from any of us. So, but it has to be approved by a majority of the council. It just seems kind of redundant that we're adding that in for something that, in the current commission, we don't have that. So I guess.
And I guess part of that is this process. This is the first one you're seeing. As you'll see the Planning Commission coming up, the Parks and Recreation Commission coming up. This language is going to be in all of those. So you don't see it in the other ones because we haven't amended those yet. This is your ordinance. If you'd like to amend it, we can certainly do that. I understand what you're saying about the redundancy, but I would be worried that it would take some of the power away from council members if we took some of it out.
If you just did remove by action of the city council without cause, it would take away from the which is what we currently have.
Yeah, you could do that if you'd like.
Yeah. So as I said, it just seems redundant because the mayor can at any time add something to the agenda. With us, we have to get a second council member to also request that, but the mayor is always able to put anything on the agenda they want without a second council member.
And again, this was to mirror how the appointment process works. And so that was why it was put in that way. It could be removed. Because again, state law does require the mayor to make the appointment with the council's authority. It does not have the same requirements for the removal.
Okay. So, and then why is there not a subsection within it for Art Commission regarding unexcused absences? There's a section for removal of commissioners for unexcused absences under Youth Commission, Brentwood Neighborhood Committee, Parks and Recreation Commission, and even the City Council.
Those provisions are found in the rules of procedure regarding the unexcused absences for the City Council, and so it's not in the municipal code regarding that.
But it is for the Youth Commission, Brentwood Neighborhood Committee, and Parks and Rec Commission. They all have more than two unexcused absences over a year period.
And for the BNC and for the Parks and Recreation Commission, again, we haven't gotten to those yet, so those haven't been amended. The goal of this.
Why would we remove those sections? The Art Commission is the only one that doesn't have that section.
Because that section is contained in the rules of procedure, and those rules of procedure are followed by all of the commissions. They apply. It's the City Council rules of procedure. but the vast majority of those apply to all of the sections that apply to all of the commissions. So it's covered in the rules of procedure.
Yeah, but when I look at that, I mean, in the rules of procedure, it says if they miss 60 days, is what the city council is a full 60 days. But what happens if you get a commissioner who misses every other month? I mean, what is the purpose of having a commissioner on a commission who's only there half the year? Because there's nothing that says that, you know, that they have to. I mean, you decide to do this, and you volunteer your time, but you don't take it serious, and so then it causes problems for the rest of them, especially if you get 2 or more people who are out, and then a meeting needs to be canceled. So I don't understand why this is. I mean, the 60-day thing. Yeah, I mean, all they have to do is miss every other month.
The 60 days is based on state law. You know, for the city council. For a commission, that's a different story. If the council wished to change that, we certainly could do that to a time. The other remedy for that is if the council members see that a particular commissioner is doing that. You know, the previous section you referenced allows the council to remove a commissioner. And so that commissioner could be removed by the city council.
Yeah. As I said, it's currently for those three commissions. So I still don't understand why we would remove it. I'd like to see that left in there. Let me see, anything else? On page 231, section 0.60.030, requirement to provide artwork or pay in lieu contribution, subsection B, eligible projects. Residential subdivisions of more than 4 lots or units of any nature, including the repair and remodeling and renovation of same with a value as per resolution of the city council. Doesn't adding an extra cost to repairs, remodeling, or renovation of 5 units or, you know, some those lower number units of any nature create an added cost that may deter landlords from repairing, remodeling, or renovating their deteriorating buildings?
And Councilmember Rary? 5
units come from?
I don't, this is in the arts program section.
No, I've moved down onto, into the public arts.
And as Director Mulder said, staff did not make any change to this. This is what you currently have in the municipal code. So this is one that if the council wishes to revise at some point or have staff look into it, it'd be appropriate as a future agenda item or maybe even a strategic initiative because it could take some time given the scope of the program. But this section, this is what you have currently. We haven't changed that. Staff hasn't changed.
I just figured since we're looking at changes that are being done, that we look at changes that need to be done.
And I think you can, but for this, I would recommend you do that as a comprehensive look, so it's not just one particular section of this program, because it's a much bigger program than just the one section.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something I would like to see brought back. And why that number was picked is, we do have much older buildings, and if they're having to pay a public art fee to renovate it or remodel it or repair it, it could be a point of where they save too much money. Let me see. Right, that's the BNC. That doesn't have anything to do with this agenda item. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mendoza.
You're on mute.
I have a question that kind of came up a little bit earlier when we were talking about the program, in our earlier item. And I guess in here, when it talks about meetings, I've noticed that we haven't had a lot of Art Commission and Park and Rec meetings. And then after hearing today that we talked about programs, but we didn't loop in the Park and Rec Commission, can we put in language in that we have to include them in certain types of projects? Because I feel like we're doing a lot, but they're almost becoming irrelevant because we're not having meetings and including them in the conversation with staff on projects. So maybe that's not for tonight. That's something like with Councilwoman Rary, then when we're talking about, these in lieu fees and all of this stuff. I think we also need to talk about just a cadence of when staff really should meet with them and what projects they should be looped in on, because I haven't seen meetings lately, and I don't know what's going on. I keep getting the cancellation notices. So that's just a comment. I guess we can't, after listening to Councilman Rary's conversation, it sounds like that's for another time, but I think we do, I would welcome to also add it to an agenda item and review these things in detail.
Councilmember Mendoza, I'm not aware that we have canceled. We have moved forward to cancel the July Parks and Rec Commission meeting because we cancel one normally during the summer. There were several canceled last year during COVID, but since we have a new commission as of the first of the year for the Park and Rec Commission, we haven't canceled any meetings. And the Art Commission, I don't believe, has canceled meetings either. And in addition to that, there have been several ad hoc committees that commissions have been involved in as well. So in the past, there was some that had been canceled, especially during COVID. But we have been making an effort to make sure we're meeting and bringing items forward to them. So we'll continue to emphasize that.
Okay. And maybe we could just put some language in, like where do they step in and where do they not step in? What do we need their feedback on? What do we not need their feedback on? That kind of thing. That was it. That's all I had.
Thank you. Councilmember Meyer?
Mine's kind of quick, and it's based on something that was brought up earlier in this discussion about staff liaison. I know that BNC used to have a council liaison, and I just wondered if there was some sort of policy in place about whether there's a staff liaison or council, or if that's something that's looked at on a regular basis for all of the commissions, because obviously planning doesn't have that. I don't believe Parks and Rec does, but BNC did. So I'm just unclear about how that distinction is made and what the benefit is to one or the other.
Yes, there is staff liaisons to the commission. So in the Muni Code, it says that the director is the secretary for the commissions, and we work with our staff to be liaisons for those. But we do have staff liaisons and participation in the Youth Commission, the Arts Commission, and that's a regular part of the commissions is staff involvement.
So what about the BNC? Because I know former council member Staten used to be the BNC council liaison.
Oh, okay, for council liaison. Well, the BNC is the next item, so we'll get to the BNC.
But in general, you mean like it's not council's not typically having liaisons to these. It's more typically staff, with that exception, and we'll talk about that next.
Right.
Okay.
If there are no more clarifying questions of staff at this time, then we will open public comment. Margaret?
I received 0 written public comments on this item. If you wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand using the Zoom feature, and I'll call upon your name if provided and unmute you to speak. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person, and your microphone will be muted after the timer has expired. And I am seeing no hands raised.
Okay, so at this time then, we will close public comment. Is there any further discussion on this item, Council? If not, do I have a motion?
I guess I just wanted to get some feedback from the other council members as to any of the points that I brought up and what their thoughts were on it. Whether it's something that they thought was needed to be changed, or whether or not it was fine as written.
For me, the redundancy isn't as big an issue as the consistency is. And I think that your point about this being present in Arts Commission but not in planning or whatever, like the removal thing, to me, that's more critical, that it be the same across the board, that the language be the same. If someone were to look up a commission and what the exact rules were, that they find everything right there in the description rather than having to go to a more generalized standard policies and procedures, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then also you mentioned, our selection process was different this time around. I would like that documented because right now it's just us, right? It would be nice to make it part of the operations of hiring, the people so that when we're gone, it stays consistent until someone decides they don't like it enough that they change it in the code. But I thought it was going to be part of how we were going to document it going forward also.
Yeah, that was my understanding too, because one of the things that was brought up when it was questioned to begin with was, well, it says that the mayor appoints. And so when the discussion was brought up is, that there was consensus that we would change it to be that we would all interview and then, like we did the last time, put on who we wanted, and then, the consensus of the five went on to be the choice. That was my understanding.
I think this process that we did this time worked very well. And I also want to make sure that the full council, to your concern, the full council needs to have as much authority as possible. That's how it was designed and intended. So I really want to make sure that stays that way as well. So whatever we have to do to make sure that we have full council authority as much as possible.
If I may make a suggestion, if that's the consensus of the council, one way to achieve that might be to amend section 2.48.020B, appointment, and it's found on page 256 of 251, and it reads, the mayor appoints the member with the approval of the city council, and then add through a process that includes the city council. And so it brings the city council into the process without having to go into all the specific details of what that process looks like. But you would add through an interview process that includes the city council, and we'd make a corresponding change. Actually, I think the youth commission is appointed. I think theirs is done a little bit differently. It's done with the youth commissioner doing the interviews and then making a recommendation to the council. I wouldn't necessarily recommend changing that, but for the Arts Commission, the Planning Commission, and Parks and Recreation Commission, you can make a change similar to what I recommend, what I suggested. But there could be other language you'd rather have, but that's just one suggestion.
Can you repeat that language, Damien? I'm sorry.
Of course. It's found on page 226 of 251. It's section 2.48.020B, as in boy, appointments. And it currently reads, the mayor appoints the members of the Arts Commission with the approval of the city council. And then I would suggest adding through an interview process that includes the city council. And
yeah, I think
language.
I mean, that would be
fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
And then regarding the absences. I would like to see that the 2 unexcused absences that are currently in the other commissions be also in the Art Commission, and that was, let me get back to it, section There is no section in the Art Commission for that. There is in the Youth Commission, which is 2.50.060. And for the Brentwood Neighborhood Committee, it is Section G. And for the Park Commission, it's 2.46.100.
I'm just looking up. I'll go to the Parks and Recreation Commission. If I could. What section did you say, Councilmember Rary, on the Parks and Recreation Commission?
It is 2.46.100.
Meetings?
Meetings, yes.
We can certainly add, and I believe you're talking about subsection E of that.
Yeah.
And it reads, if a member of the commission is absent without cause from 2 successive regular meetings of the commission may request the city council declare the position vacant. A member is not absent without cause if his or her absence is due to illness or is unavoidable, and the member gives notice to city staff before the meeting that he or she will be absent and giving the reason for the absence.
Yes.
I'm sorry, didn't you say that you didn't think they needed to be in succession? Councilmember Rary?
Yes, they didn't need to be in succession, whereas...
That language did say.
No, the city council, with the city council, it is if you're gone 60 days. But in this, it's like they could miss any days. So it doesn't have to be 2 in a row. Oh, 2 successive regular meetings. No, it doesn't. Where's the one that? So in the Brentwood Neighborhood Committee, it's a member, section G. A member may not have more than 2 absences without cause during a calendar year. And it also says that after the 3rd absent without cause, the committee may request the city council remove the person from the committee.
If the council wishes to put something like that into the regulations, that we could certainly accommodate that.
It's up to you guys.
I like it. I mean, I think it's, we made commitments to be here, and I think we should add it.
I think we should add it specifically because it should be consistent for every commission across the board.
But now, if I can just start with the last point, Councilmember Meyer, remember this is the first commission you're changing, so the other ones could be like what we have right now. But that notwithstanding, we could add this, and I was looking at what section it would be added to. It would be added to. It would be added to the removal from office section, or remove and vacancies. I would probably add a new section C based on what the BNC language is for, what was that, section
G.
G.
It's on page 248.
So probably we'd add a new section, as I said, new section C to account for that in that section, and perhaps change the title. Just to add that, to include this in the title.
Okay. And any one way or another, Councilmember Meyer said she didn't care one way or another whether or not the redundancy in the removal of office.
I mean, I read it. I thought it was redundant because, I mean, Mayor Bryant can do whatever he wants to do. I mean, it's just striking out that last section and then just being specific about how council can do it. It's just more words that I don't think we need that are kind of assumed in other places based on his authority.
Or any mayor authority. Right.
Yeah. Well, right now, yes. It just feels like if we're going to clean it up, let's clean it up now and let's make it crystal clear.
I agree. That sounds fine.
So if I can perhaps assist whoever's going to make the motion, from what I'm hearing, the consensus of the council would be to introduce and waive the first reading as detailed in the staff report of an ordinance, of this ordinance with the following changes to section 2.48040, amend section A to remove or by the mayor with the approval of the city council, to amend section B to add at the end of, no, I'm sorry, not section B. I'm sorry, section B of 020, add through an interview process that includes the city council. And then going back, sorry, I'm out of order here, going back to 2.48.040, adding new section C that includes the language from the BNC removal from office in subsection G1 about member may not have more than 2 excused absences without cause during a calendar year. Put that into that section as a new subsection C, changing the title. Did I capture everything, Councilmember Barreri?
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
I'll read the ordinance title first. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Brentwood repealing and adopting chapters in Title II of the Brentwood Municipal Code pertaining to the Arts Commission, repealing resolutions and policies pertaining to the Youth Commission, and adding new chapters to the Brentwood Municipal Code pertaining to the Youth Commission, Public Art Program, and Poet Laureate. Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Barreri?
Aye.
Mayor Bryant?
Aye.
Motion carries with Vice Mayor Rodriguez absent.
And Councilman Barreri, our city attorney, could not have put it any better. So, well done. We will move on to item E3, staff update and potential council direction on the Brentwood Neighborhood Committee. And I will turn this to Chris Firo or Bruce, whoever's up.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I will start by saying my allergies have been really bad, so I'm going to try to get through this without a lot of water and coughing, but if I have to go there, then I will turn off the camera and cough and come back. The Brentwood Neighborhood Committee, commonly referred to as the BNC, has been through several changes since its inception. It was originally established as the Public Relations Committee, and in 1996, it became the Neighborhood Committee. In 1998, it became the Brentwood Advisory Neighborhood Committee, and finally in 2016, it became the BNC that we know today. The current BNC members have discussed the possibility of another revisioning. The current committee members feel they have a greater impact by realigning some of their event duties. These duties are listed in the BNC guidelines, which are included in your agenda packet this evening, and instead focusing their efforts on new neighborhood events. This item was brought to Council previously on April 27th of this year, but Council did not take action at this time, So staff is returning to request council direction on this item. I am available to answer any questions that you may have.
Councilmember Rary.
Let me get to my questions. So on page 247, section C, membership, says the committee consists of up to 11 members, each of whom must be a Brentwood resident. A city council member serves as the liaison to the committee. There you are, Councilmember Meyer. Originally, the Brentwood Advisory Neighborhood Committee, which I was one of the original members, consisted of members from different areas of town. And it was because we weren't, what did you call the original committee?
It was the Public Relations Committee and then the Neighborhood Committee before it was.
Sort of. We were liaisons. So our neighborhoods, people actually came to most of us anyway, to most of the people who were selected on this, to resolve problems within our neighborhoods. And so we were kind of the liaison to the city council to prevent them from being inundated with the neighborhoods just showing up in council chambers. So we would help them to get to staff members to resolve issues or help to resolve those issues for them. And it has since morphed, as you had said. So public relations, kind of. But I'd like to see them, because we did see there was a whole bunch that were in Brentwood Hills and Shadow Lakes and probably within a block or two of each other. And so would it be possible to break these up into the 4 districts and with no more than 4 from any district and only 1 per subdivision? So we're not getting a whole bunch of next door neighbors serving together? Because I think a couple of them were next door neighbors.
That's absolutely a possibility. So that's why we're here, to get that direction.
Yeah. And we used to, the home of the month, the home of the season that they now have, we had started the home of the month, and actually Home Depot still has a spot reserved for the home of the month winner for the Brentwood Neighborhood Committee. And the home of the month was for those, we would recognize those who took pride in ownership in their yards and kept them manicured and beautiful. And while we're going into a drought again, it may not be as easy to do, but there are even, there's the native plants that are done. There's the drought-tolerant landscaping that's out there. And to be able to go out there, and it got us out into the neighborhoods to pick homes. We each went out there. We picked, someone from our house or from our neighborhood, and we rotated it. And I want to say we did 4 at a time. So there was 4 different members who would be selected to go out 1 month and pick them, so that it gave pride and ownership. And then they got a gift certificate to somewhere, and they got the sign in their front yards, and it was to bring pride to ownership, or pride, even if you're not an owner, pride to your neighborhood, which then increased the people next door saying, gee, they were recognized for this and for just taking care of their yard, and it was to help to keep neighborhoods up. So that was the purpose of that home of the month, so I was kind of disappointed when I saw it went down to home of the season, and then I think it said in there that they want staff to go do that now. Also, because they are trying to bring because they are representing different areas of our town. I mean, wouldn't it be great if under that we can include the membership that they become community emergency response team members, so that they are in different areas of the town So if something did happen, that we would make sure that we have trained members who are already leaders in our town, and we would have them in all 4 quadrants. Right now, it depends on who's gone through the training, and we don't, I mean, they could be all over the place. So this way we ensure that we always have 11 members in 4 different quadrants who are CERT trained. So those are my comments that I'd like to see, and maybe the others, but those are things that, you know, is possible to do. Yeah? Okay. Well,
Councilmember Meyer.
Hi, thank you for that, Chris. The BNC hasn't been active, of course, we know, and I'm curious, like, what for them, what wasn't working that they decided they wanted to re-envision? And I do very much like the idea of all the neighborhood representation. I think we should have at least one member, if you will, one commissioner from each part of town, but I don't think we should limit having more from one district or one part of town, as long as each part of town is represented. I would, you know, I actually tried to be on the Brentwood Neighborhood Commission a couple years ago. I was not accepted, still bitter about it. But at this point, I could be the council liaison, and that would be fine. But I'd like to know why it was that they felt they needed to re-envision themselves. And then I think like things like the National Night Out, for example, and then maybe some connections with nonprofits and the triad that's happening with, you know, the senior community. And I think there's a lot of potential for something that's more community-based to you know, report back on what people are hearing and feeling, and kind of like an in-person version of Nextdoor, the social media site that has turned kind of negative in recent months and years. So, but yeah, what about this for them needed to be revisioned?
Sure. So I don't think it was necessarily what wasn't working per se. There was a great kind of turnover that happened right before COVID. Most of the BNC members that had been longstanding members retired from the committee. And so with that, we were left with 5 members who were pretty brand new, some of who had been only with us for a couple months. And so in that kind of exodus, and it wasn't kind of on purpose, some people moved, they all kind of hit at the same time. I think that the new folks that came on board just thought, gosh, you know, we don't have to do it how it's always been done, and are there other opportunities for us to do other things? And so I don't know that anything was broken per se. I think we just had new ideas and new people being involved, and they thought, you know, if there was a time to recreate, it's now, because some of those that had been there for a long time had just become kind of, you know, we do the same thing year after year, and new people just came in and saw different opportunities. So I don't think something was broken as much as just new ideas and new kind of new interests. And then some of the realignment was because a lot of the things that were on their list were just being done by other people. So for example, the tree lighting has been one of the responsibilities for this group before it was the BNC, before it was even Bank. You know, it's always been their responsibility. However, because the event is now so large, it is the responsibility of the Park and Rec Department. It's not something that a 11-member committee could take on by themselves. It's just too big for that now. So it really is, you know, planned and implemented by staff. And so they just felt like it's still sitting on their list, and they volunteer at the event, but it's really not an accurate statement to say that they plan it, they implement it, or, you know, they certainly don't, you know, pay for it. So they were just trying to put it in the right box, so to speak. And you did reference National Night Out, and the same is true of that event. So they do volunteer at that event, but it's really put on, produced, planned, implemented by our police department. So it wasn't that they didn't think that those things are worthy. They certainly want the city to do them. They just felt like it shouldn't sit on their task list. They're happy to still provide volunteer support, but they just wanted it to sit in the house that was really planning and implementing the event. So it wasn't that they want to cancel those events or not hold them anymore. They just wanted to recognize that they really belong with the city staff as opposed to them as a volunteer committee.
So they're not opposed necessarily to events. I mean, like when 4th of July was happening, and we discussed very briefly things like people decorating their front porch and decorating their business, their storefront. They would still be open to being involved in that kind of thing on a smaller scale?
So really their involvement right now, for example, the 4th of July parade, DBC actually holds that downtown program for encouraging those businesses to decorate. That's not something BNC does. They walk in the parade, and then they help pass out, flags and things like that. So they would still want to participate on that level, but they don't do the planning, the recruiting, the marketing, the reservations, the parade route, like that's all.
I wasn't actually talking about the parade. I was talking kind of like a citywide, like if we were to say Happy Porch of July, and so the whole city does this little concept on that. Not specific to downtown because of the DVC, but just something like if they were to come up with some kind of a new campaign or a new let's get the community engaged kind of thing, could they then take something like that on? Are they still willing to do that?
And I think that's what they're excited about. Like they want to think about, okay, all these events already exist. They kind of started with the BNC or previously named committee, but now they can pass them off to the staff, and that's what they're looking for. It's like, what's the next event that we can bring that's kind of smaller, that starts grassroots, and that maybe it stays grassroots and it's something that they always do, or maybe it develops and it's big and it gets passed on to the city staff, and then it's time for the next one. So that's what they're kind of looking for, is it's time to kind of pass on these things that have gotten so big. They shouldn't sit in our list anymore, and what's next. And they're very excited about anything. I love that idea. We might steal that anyways, even if it doesn't become a BNC item. That was very cute. But yeah, they're very excited about just getting into their neighborhoods. They talked about doing events in the parks, doing things downtown, doing things in the streets of Brentwood. So they're definitely event driven. I don't think they want to lose that focus. They just want new events.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Hi. I was actually a lot of the same questions Councilmember Meyer had. Is like, were they not happy with things that were going on? I will say that my house, not me because I am not crafty, but my husband did win Halloween House of the Year one year. And you do get goodies. He got wine, stemless glasses, and mugs, and he was very happy. He still uses his mug every day. But anyway, so when it says participate on the list, they used to manage those programs and they're no longer going to manage them. Okay. And what I know I brought this up before, is, and I think they have a lot of great ideas. And I know we have a lot of meetings, so we probably don't need more meetings, but I would love to see like a workshop where we hear all of their ideas and we're like kind of feeding off of each other and what we're seeing. Another idea, I know we had, Councilman Rary's had the emergency response side of it. I was also thinking that these people could educate people on how to get things done in the city. So for example, how to open a ticket. Your light on your lamppost is out. How do you get that replaced? Like, did you know there's a number on it? Or, there's been a car out there for 20 days. What do you do? So even a part of how to educate your fellow neighbors, I think would be really, really helpful. And again, they could become the go-to person. And I know that the city has Nextdoor accounts that are associated with the city. So maybe we have guest writers that do guest posts from this group onto like Nextdoor, which goes across the city, and I think has farther reach than we could put it on Facebook also, but I do like Nextdoor. It feels more local. Well, now it's everywhere, but you choose the local section. But I would love to hear their ideas and support them however we can. I think it'd be great.
That kind of sounds like what we originally started doing, is to help educate the public and help them remediate problems that are going on. And
well, we've grown so much that I think that people, you don't know where to go, and it's such a big city now that it gets lost, So I think that, what you guys started is kind of what we need now again, with so many new people living in Brentwood.
I do too.
So yeah, thank you, Chris, for all of your work on this. I think it's a great commission.
one of the things that, combining all of this, that something similar to this used to happen when we first moved to Brentwood, is that there were groups that would highlight some of the amazing residents that we have here, some of the families that had been here for so long, for many generations, and that's one of the things that really makes Brentwood feel homey and like a real close community, and things like that. And I'm not an idea person. Clearly, some of the other council members are very idea-oriented and good at it, but I think having a neighborhood committee that does, Council Member Mendoza, having a working group that we have and bring in community members. I think all of these ideas are phenomenal. I'm really excited that there is new blood coming in. These, like you said, these events were outsized for the Brentwood Neighborhood Committee, but I think this is an outstanding opportunity to let some of the older families and older individuals, let me rephrase that, longer-term residents in our community, meet some of the newer residents in our community and team up and bring ideas from areas maybe that they have lived in that they'd like to see in Brentwood as well. So thank you very much, Chris, for that. I'm going to move on to public comment now. If there's anyone that would like, I'm sorry, I'll turn it to Margaret.
You are doing just fine. I received no written public comments on this item. If you wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand using the Zoom feature, and I'll call upon a name if provided and unmute you to speak. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person, and your microphone will be muted after the timer has expired. And I'm seeing no hands raised.
Then at this time, we will close public comments. Is there any more conversation that we would like to have on this item? Councilmember Rary.
I do think bringing them back in to talk with them to find out what it is that they really want to do. I think bringing it back to the original. So as I said, the original committee is the same one that was banked. And the acronym it was because you can bank on us to get things done, was where bank came from, the Brentwood Advisory Neighborhood Committee. But I think that, bringing it back to people who are helping their neighbors resolve issues and how to open up the ticket, use the Connect 24/7, and those types of things, I think are still needed. And it gives them an opportunity. And what we did is we went door to door and passed out our information and told them that we could help them with things. And you didn't necessarily need to knock on the door unless you wanted to. You could leave it on the front doorstep and go on to the next house. But it did get us out to meet our neighbors, to be able to put an eye to the person who could help you. And we did resolve a lot of issues through that. I mean, people needing speed bumps in town, and homes where there's problems with a bunch of the homes in the area. What do we do now? And those types of issues were resolved. I think bringing them in and finding out really what they want to do and how we can help them set goals.
Absolutely. I would like to see if maybe we could also have them partner with the Chamber of Commerce to become ambassadors to our neighbors, our community, have the city provide them packets of information, and anytime someone moves in, the professionals at the Chamber that have businesses in town and real estate agencies that know the new families coming in. Just all of these different things that they could really be another level of service to our community. And I think that what it originally was is phenomenal, and I think we're ready to get back to that with new ideas. So, is there anyone else that has? Yes, Councilman.
Yeah, and I think we're short members, so I think a workshop, like a true workshop where people are talking and it's kind of casual, will encourage people to come out and maybe get involved when they wouldn't, if it's too formal. So I think something a little informal, people might be a little bit more receptive to come and speak and like share ideas. Like we could all just be equal there. Like no, like council, it's just all Brentwood residents trying to get it done.
Terrific. So do I have a motion on this item?
I don't think the motion is the same as what's here, is it? Because where's the...
To provide direction to Brentwood Neighborhood Committee duties, goals, and guidelines. Is that Chris? Is that clear? What we've recommended, or do you need more clarification?
So what I'm hearing is that we will schedule a workshop for the current BNC members and the council to work on this together, to brainstorm ideas for what their guidelines will be moving forward. Does that sound good, Damien? Does that meet requirements?
On this one, the council consensus that back with a workshop rather than doing a formal vote on it. You could, of course, but it sounds like various ideas have been shared about the BNC and what it might look like. So I guess I could envision that workshop including a lot of what was discussed tonight as options, and then whatever options the BNC has brought together, so then they can all be discussed at the same time. But it sounds like, and it might, each option that was discussed tonight might not have a majority of council approval, but they could all be put on that list of discussion topics for that meeting, or for that workshop. So it sounds to me that there's council consensus to at least have the workshop. And I'm seeing nodding heads, so we're not taking a formal vote on that. So,
can they continue to do any work? I mean, I don't want to stop them from doing anything they're in the middle of. Can they continue to do anything that they're passionate about right now? I mean, if they are working on something, I wouldn't want to stop them from executing on anything they have going on.
They have been on hold pending this decision.
Okay.
They actually, even with their current guidelines, their next activity would not be until National Night Out, followed by the Halloween home of the season. So we have some time before those things are coming. So I think we're okay to. I can schedule their. It might make sense now that I'm saying that. It might make sense to schedule their August meeting so that I can let them know what your just consensus was this evening. Let them know that we're moving forward with the workshop. Work with them on dates. So I will set that August meeting, and then we'll follow up with them together with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So at this time then, we will move on to item E4, staff update and potential council direction on whether to continue passport application services. And Margaret Wimberly and Tim Nielsen will present the item. Margaret and Tim.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. Good evening, Mayor and Council members, and we want to provide an update on passport services and get Council direction on whether to proceed with processing passport applications. Just for history, the city started processing passports in 2001. In 2008, during the economic recession, those services were moved to community development, with Tim Nielsen overseeing the staff that handles them, and I oversee the day-to-day, I oversee the big picture processing of paperwork with the State Department. All applications have to be processed by staff that have been trained and authorized by the Department of State to process passport applications. Acceptance agents must be permanent employee of the city, and they may not be temporary, contractual, ad hoc, or volunteer, and that would include limited service positions. They may not process passport applications. Passports must be processed in a central location within the facility, so it can't be moved from department to department. Appointments must be offered at least 5 hours a day, and because we do have every other Friday with some staff members off, they've said that Monday through Thursday at 5 hours each would be sufficient. In order to recertify each year, an annual audit must be performed by staff from the Department of State who ensures compliance with all of their records, all of their regulations. I did check in with other Contra Costa County cities and found that the city of Oakley is currently processing passport applications. The city of San Ramon is going to resume their passport services as soon as they can recertify and reopen their facility. The city of El Cerrito recently closed its passport services just due to budget impacts. And over the last 10 years, there's been no other cities that have provided passport services in Contra Costa County other than the ones listed above. All U.S. Postal Service locations do provide passport services, and they now have a central appointment link on their website where members of the public can schedule appointments for passport services. I know in the past there had been some issues with the post office turning people away or not assisting people wanting to get passport services, but with that appointment service, it really helps. Revenue, the revenue received from processing passports, we get the execution fee for those. That fee is $35 for each passport application that we process, and that fee is set by the Department of State. And so we have no control over that fee. The city currently charges $21.31 for passport photos. We set that fee, and that's included in your cost allocation plan, and it covers the cost of staff time and the supplies used to take the photos for items like the camera and the film that's needed. On average, we process well over 1,000 passport applications a year, and the revenues for passport services are shown below. Expenses. The estimated general fund cost of staff time to provide the services is approximately $60,000 per year for salaries and benefits without overhead cost applied. In addition, there's minor expenses for office supplies such as envelopes or printing forms and subscription for the appointment software. And I'm going to let Tim Nielsen address this portion on the impacts to the staff in the Community Development Department.
Thank you, Margaret. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, yeah, I wanted to give just a kind of a brief update or kind of report from the front as far as what the impacts on our other services look like in providing these this acceptance agency service to the public. So approximately half of a full-time employee's hours in any given year have to be dedicated to accepting and processing these passport applications at the minimum levels required by the U.S. Department of State. And that's really kind of the estimatable time. There's time above and beyond that that is required to provide this service. There's the training and the certification on an annual basis that's required. And then beyond that, there are a lot of questions that we field as an acceptance agency, a lot of those coming from members of the public who are just looking to renew their passports, and we really can't help them with that as they have to do that directly with the Department of State via mail. However, they do come to us as an acceptance agency, and we certainly do try to answer and field those questions as best we can. Kind of the rub with all of this is that with this service being provided through the permit center, the amount of time that we dedicate to this takes away and impacts the amount of time that we would spend assisting other customers, kind of our primary customers, if you will, including businesses in Brentwood, our contractors, certainly our residents, the development community. Those really are kind of our raison d'etre, if you will. And providing this passport services does impact those other services, especially given the minimum number of hours that we have to be available during the course of a day, 4 days a week,
per the Department of State regulations and requirements. And then it also impacts kind of the wait times, because we have those wait times for our other customers can be lengthened because of overlaps between appointments that require more attention from our front counter staff than is otherwise planned for, and that we are otherwise staffed for. So really, in order to be able to continue offering these services, and like Margaret had said, it's well over 1,000 passports a year, and that includes Brentwood residents and residents from other communities that drive to Brentwood in lieu of going to another acceptance agency. However, it does impact our primary services. So in order to be able to continue offering that passport acceptance service at the minimum levels required by the Department of State, our request would be for some additional staffing, and I think Margaret went through some of the requirements of what that staff entails as far as it being a regular either full-time or part-time Brentwood employee. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Margaret to conclude the discussion or presentation.
Sorry, I lost my mouse. I was trying to click back over. At this time, staff would recommend that council provide direction related to whether we should continue passport application services, and we're available if you have any questions.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Thank you. Margaret, can we go back to the finance page, like what it actually costs, like net? Okay, so right now, on the bot, you do about 1,000. I think the staff report said you were doing about 1,200 or so. And then there's $35 plus the $21.35 per passport, right?
Correct. Well, it depends. Not everybody who applies for a passport gets their photos taken here.
Okay. And then of the $35, we keep all that. We don't give that to anybody else. That's just for us to keep?
Correct.
To offset. And does that amount, and the total expense to hire someone, what was that expense? Because I'm trying to think.
Oops, sorry, I just lost my
No, it's okay.
page here.
Because that $35 is $42,000, but what does it cost to for that head count?
It was approximately, I want to say $60,000 for staff time without any overhead, and I don't know if Tim has more information on that piece.
So not fully loaded with benefits, it's $60,000.
Correct.
That's the fully loaded rate.
Wait, $60,000 is fully loaded?
Correct, for about half time of that employee.
So then we are off by about $18,000. We're covering it ourselves.
Correct.
The closest place to get them is the post office, right?
Correct.
Has anyone talked to that post office about maybe transitioning away from this? So what would they, because one of the things I think about is service levels, right? So what did they say? Do they know that we're thinking about this?
We're not currently certified to offer the service right now, so they've been carrying the burden during the last year. And I guess, I don't know how much of the burden it was during the pandemic anyways. But
Yeah.
no, I'm not aware of us having any conversations with them about whether we provide it or not.
And there's no way to charge more than the $35. So we'll be negative no matter what.
Correct.
That's for sure. We can't charge more than that? Is that?
That's correct. We can only charge the $35 execution fee. And I did check the appointments with the post office and at the Brentwood post office, and they were pretty far out on their appointments right now. I want to say August was the soonest.
No, I just checked, and there was only August 10th, and there wasn't even enough room for one person to get a passport. Just one person couldn't get a passport, even though it said that was the only day available.
And Margaret, remind me, I think there are, 10 locations within 5 miles of here as well, not just the post office. So there are other locations that are certified to do this service. as well.
Correct. There's the City of Oakley, and any other post office locations also offer passport services, and all of those are by appointment only now.
Okay, are we by appointment only? I might have missed that.
We
are by appointment only.
Okay. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Guerrero?
So without the appointments available from there, are we able to, do we have to offer it to anybody who comes in, or can we just offer it to Brentwood residents only?
I would need to check with the Department of State, but I believe because we're doing it on their behalf, we would not be able to limit it to just Brentwood residents.
Okay. And couldn't charge a surcharge for non-Brentwood residents?
I don't believe so.
You know, we do for other things. You know, I got to tell you, I got my passport through the city down in the planning department, and it was the easiest thing to do. The convenience of being able to do it within my own city was phenomenal. I know Councilmember Mendoza said that she went to the post office and got in and out without any problems, but as I just said, and so did City Clerk, that I mean, there's no appointments available in July or August, which means there's nothing until September for people, which means that they will have to go somewhere else. I'd like to see the 60,000 fully loaded, and that's only for a part-time person for half a day. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, just to clarify, that number isn't what it's going to cost to hire someone. That is the number based on the 2 front desk personnel and averaging out their current fully loaded rates to just give you an estimate of what the expense side is for the salary. So if we were to look at bringing this back in-house or initiating the service again, we'd have to look at a couple of decision points. Do we want it still in development services, or restore it back to where the city clerk's office used to house the service, and then find out what resource is best needed to accommodate that, whether that's 1 part-time person or 2 part-time people, with making sure that we can meet all the appointment plans and all of the regulations required by the federal agency. But you could start with 60,000 as a rough number to start.
Okay.
One quick question. Are we being asked a lot for it? Like, are people coming in asking for it?
We had closed down the appointment system when City Hall closed down due to COVID, and we have been fielding as many questions as we get, and part of those questions do involve, you know, when is the city, or is the city going to be offering those appointments again? And so, yeah, we are being asked those questions. What the demand looks like is like a percentage of our overall calls is difficult to say, just because, you know, if people go online and look right now, the city of Brentwood is not among those who can offer the service.
What would staff's recommendation be? I don't think I saw a recommendation. Tim says don't do it.
We didn't include a recommendation. We wanted to provide all the facts to you. We think there's others that can provide the service. If the council would like to make this a service more convenient for its residents and perhaps others, then we're just saying that if you want us to restore that, it's going to take some time to get certified again, and then need to come back to you with more details on what kind of resources we need to pull this off more effectively than we have been.
I guess when I asked about staff recommendation, this is time that we're spending on this. When you look at all of the demand from our residents, are we lackluster somewhere else because we're doing this?
I think that Tim makes a fair point, in that there are other passport acceptance agencies that our customers could go to but there's nowhere else that they could go to get a building permit or nowhere else that they could go to submit a planning application if they want to do work in Brentwood. And so the passport application element of what we do does take away from our ability to serve our other primary customers. Hence the request to have some additional staffing if we were to continue the passport acceptance operations.
And additional staffing would mean us approving additional budget, which is the $60,000, or you would come back with the final budget ask. You'd come back with it.
We'd have to come back with more details on that, yeah. So one is the policy question. Do you want to offer this service to your residents? And if you do, we'll have to come back with what that looks like, how to pull that off operationally.
I think I'd want to wait to see what we look like fully loaded to make that answer, fully answer. Like you're saying 60, but what if it's more? And what if you guys get together and just the demand is so much that it's not, for a customer service perspective, for residents, it's actually detrimental? Like, I don't know that right now. I mean, I don't know how everyone else feels.
Well, if there are no more informational questions, staff, we'll open public comment and see if the public has input, and then we'll come back and have the council discussion. So at this time, Margaret, I'll turn it to you.
I received one public comment on this item from John Elam, and he provided some comments regarding the history of passport application services with the City of Brentwood. And that will be posted on the city's website. If you wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand using the Zoom feature, and I'll call upon your name if provided and unmute you to speak. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person, and your microphone will be muted after the timer has expired. I'm seeing no raised hands.
Okay, then we will close public comment, move to council discussion. I will say that I also agree with Councilperson Mendoza. I'd like to see what it would the actual costs are. Personally, right now, I think that the option to be able to get a passport nearby in several other opportunities and locations, if we don't go forward with this, it would free up our staff to help our residents with other things that are probably more immediate. If you're coming downtown to deal with our planning and our staff at the front desk, it's something that you have pretty immediate need for. And if you have to wait longer simply for someone who is being serviced for passports, that's certainly inconvenient, and it could be more than inconvenient. I know having the ability to come downtown and get a passport is really convenient. It's very nice, but Oakley's very close. The post office is very close. There are other ways to do it as well. But I would like to see more information on this. I know that it doesn't necessarily give staff an answer tonight, but if we could have it brought back soon, that would give us a better idea of what it's actually costing our community and the city.
Yeah, but based on the questions and the feedback tonight, I think that gives us a better picture that you would like to provide the service, assuming we'll give you some more details on what that additional personnel cost would be. Again, it's going to be in the ballpark of about $60,000, so you know it's not going to cover its costs with the revenue that's coming in now. And shifting that burden away from development services probably also would be my recommendation, so they can stay focused on their core function. This pandemic has really given us an opportunity to reassess all of our functions and services, and this is one that kind of rose to the top saying, is this a core service we should be providing? And if it is, we may need a little extra help, and let's shift this burden where maybe it better fits in the city. So we can certainly come back with more information.
Councilmember Rarick?
I'd also like to find out, we keep hearing about all these other places that are available for it. I'd like to find out how many other places are available, and if they have appointments available. I mean, as we see, it's 2 months off before you can even get an appointment in, and actually it doesn't even give you the opportunity to schedule into September. It only allows you to do July or August, and both of them are full for the Brentwood Post Office. I don't know about Oakley. So, yeah, I'd like to find out what other ones are available. Also, is it possible to do Brentwood only, Brentwood residents only? If that's an option that we can do, that might reduce the amount that's needed, as far as staff time. And maybe even find out, do we know what percentage of those that we've served, what cities they lived in? I mean, is it 85% Brentwood or 99% Brentwood or 50-50? I mean, that would be good too. If we're servicing more people that are out of Brentwood than we are that are in Brentwood, it's a no-brainer that we don't continue it. But if we're servicing Brentwood residents, I think, depending on the cost, it might be worthwhile to look into continuing it.
We might be able to answer that question tonight. If we know it's mostly non-Brentwood, we can resolve this tonight. Tim or Margaret, do you know the ratio off the top of your heads based on the addresses that come through for registering for these?
I don't know off the top of my head. We could definitely look that up. I do know that when the cities of Livermore and Tracy stopped offering passport services a number of years ago, the burden on Brentwood went up significantly. And we do see customers driving fairly long distances, the Central Valley distances, and in some cases South Bay distances to come to Brentwood in order to get their passport appointments filled. But what the ratio is, we can look that up, and we can get an answer for that.
Great. So we'll have that information when we come back.
There's no further conversation on this. Is there enough information right now without taking a vote, or should we?
I have a good sense of what the council is looking for with additional information that we can come back with.
Okay, then we will move from this item to item F1, and that is request for future agenda items. And is there anyone that has a future agenda item request?
I just wanted to see, have we sent in sent in letters for SB9 and SB10, and would it be worthwhile to send them back in again, especially to the committees that specifically to the committee members that will be hearing it? I think that is something that we definitely should be doing.
Yeah, we have sent in letters, and we've adopted resolutions, and we can certainly send more letters.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yeah, so the SB9 and SB10 have already gone through the Senate process, and as George, I don't think he mentioned, but they're currently being heard in Assembly. They're not yet on the floor, and they are going to be heard in appropriations. There's no date for that yet. So submitting a letter to the Assembly members specifically, requesting a meeting with Assembly members, any of that could be helpful, but it's already gone through Senate, so there's no point in doing anything there. We do have letters that were submitted, so I think that part has already been done. The League of Cities had templates that they used.
Councilmember Meyer, if I may interject, we're starting to have a discussion about SB9 on a future agenda item request. Okay. Just an update you're giving, but we're starting to move away from the intent item. If the council would on SB9, it'd be appropriate to agendize it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if we need to put it on agenda, that'd be great. And if I could piggyback on Councilman Rary's, I mean, Fraser's in our office, and he will be voting. So can we add that to the agenda item that we proactively have a meeting with him to discuss our opposition to SB9 and SB10?
Well, staff have authority from the council already to send letters on this topic, so we can agendize it, or we can just start sending the letters off and meeting with the assembly members.
Well, yeah. I think meeting, I don't know if the agenda item is meeting with them. I mean, I think someone should sit down and meet with him for sure.
Here, we can do that.
Councilmember Meyer? Oh, I'm sorry. Then at this point, if there are no future agenda items, and I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Rary?
Aye.
Mayor Bryant?
Aye.
Motion carries with Vice Mayor Rodriguez absent.
We are adjourned, and just in parting comments to council, I will be happy to meet face-to-face with our assemblymen and also others as well. And thank you for doing the same. I know you already have the calls and everything, but thank you. And be safe, everyone. And Councilmember Meyer, please get to feeling better. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Goodbye.